Hello and welcome to episode 122 of Killer POV. This is our Halloween 2015 episode.
Happy Halloween, Halloween. Somebody should be singing the background.
I think it was just so spent from this month. It's been the month of hell. I'm one of your hosts, Rob G from Blumhouse.com. Rebekah McKendry is here, also from Blumhouse.com.
I am deliriously sleepy. This should be a fun show.
Elric Kane, who we will bribe to be in Blumhouse.com. No, actually, you are.
You are.
You're society.
Don't pull me into this, guys. You guys are getting a lot of heat these days, so I'm just going to lean back and be like, I'm not part of anything.
We're all controversial.
Yeah, we're the Blumhouse podcast now. We get 1-star ratings and shit. No, we are all here. We are exhausted from Halloween.
It is a little tiring now.
There has been so much this week.
Yeah, but we're going to try to make the best of it. And
Still good. We're not complaining, but I'm ready for November for sure.
Yeah.
It's sad when I'm like looking forward to AFM because that comes in like next week and I'm like, all I have to do is like sit there and watch movies.
I'm looking forward to sleep.
I'm blaming Beyond Fest now because it's so early that it's like an official launch now of October season. And if they were later, I wouldn't start for 2 weeks. But because they kick off in September, at the end of September, you're just like, from there, it just doesn't stop.
October 1st.
Yeah, it was like 1st. Right then.
Right,
it was just
at
like
the cusp.
I can't keep up that schedule for all of October, man. I'm dragging now. So.
But whatever, it's still October as of this episode.
We got a couple more days to go.
Let's get back
and not all of you are spent, so we're going to make you have fun.
And we have to take youngins trick-or-treating on Saturday night.
I got one who's like damn sick. That's really bad.
Oh, no.
I know. It's going to be a rough couple days, but
I saw Dash today.
The other one.
Oh,
Little one, it's creepy. We got a call after our event yesterday.
No, which we'll talk about
in a second.
Yeah.
And it kind of downed it, but that's okay. It's happened before.
That's what kids
That's
get.
That's what kids
it's
do.
Not,
the petri dishes of life.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've had pink eye because of that wonderful child. Oh.
Well, we've seen a lot in the last week, and I'm going to kick it off with something I've seen now like 4 or 5 times because it's that awesome. And what you will be celebrating this weekend, all of you listeners out there, on Starz, Saturday night, October 31st, Ash vs. Evil Dead will premiere. I've seen the first 2 episodes.
Rob's been through it.
How much is Starz? I'm going to have to bite the bullet for this. It's
I know a lot of people.
Does it have anything else worth me getting it for?
I don't know.
Or am I getting it for one show?
I do have a bunch of friends on the East Coast that are like, oh man, I ordered Starz just for the show.
I'll probably do it.
And you know what? It's fucking worth it.
Yeah.
It's right. It was pretty great. I actually got a screener of the first 2 episodes right before we recorded last week's episode. And it was pretty amazing. I was on my way out the door. I was like, oh, well, I'm not waiting. I'm going to see it as soon as we finish recording. And I texted maybe 1 or 2 people like, hey, do you want to come over and watch it? And by the time I got back after our episode, I had like 12 people waiting at my door like, oh, we're here for Ash vs. Evil Dead. So it was amazing. Nice. We got to watch it with a nice little crowd of people that were all enthusiastic about it.
Awesome.
And I don't know what to tell you other than... If you love it's a combination primarily of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, at least in tone. Sam Raimi directs the pilot. It's probably some of the sharpest stuff he's ever directed. It's actually kind of a bummer that he doesn't do horror so much anymore because he's just so good.
I remember Drag Me to Hell. I remember having so much fun.
Drag Me to Hell is
watching
amazing.
That.
It's great. It's really a lot of fun. This is everything we've been waiting for. And that's the thing, is like I couldn't possibly predict what it would be. But within the first 5 minutes when they set up how the Evil Dead come back and all, it's just so preposterous, but so Ash that you completely buy in. You're like, all right, I'm in. And also, I feel like
Bruce is better than when he directs himself?
Yes, absolutely.
Every Bruce directed movie is
Bruce
just like,
is much better than that. Yeah,
Bruce, come on.
That's why I think that Sam has joked with him about, like on some of the panels, like at Comic-Con, saying like, oh, it was good to work with Bruce all these years later, now that he can actually kind of act. And he was like, oh, you pipe down, you.
Oh, dig.
Here's a question about that show that I'm really curious about, and I don't know if we can even answer, is... this is being made for an audience that isn't us.
Right.
I mean, as well as us, but they can't get by just by Evil Dead fans and horror fans. Like, this has to have, like, some sort of crossover appeal to... Yeah. And I'm very curious, like, is there a catch-up on what the story was before at the start of it? How do they catch you up into what it is?
No, they do. I mean, look, this is not a secret. There are rights issues with Army of Darkness because it's a Universal property. Mm-hmm. So they kind of have to skate around it, but they're pretty vague in terms of what happened in the 3 movies. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of roughly 30 years later. And in fact, there's a flashback that is done so uniquely that I was like, oh, that's just Raimi doing his thing. Like, some of the tricks that he pulls out in this are just so much fun. It's way funnier than you could imagine. It's way gorier than you could imagine. And all the Deadite stuff is actually scary. So the way I saw it was like, I was like, if you're a 12-year-old kid, this is going to be your favorite show ever. Because they really, I mean, to us, we've seen everything, so we're not going to be scared of that stuff.
And
but
the timing's perfect because of Walking Dead. Because it's such a different tone. And Walking Dead's popular, but I think there's a lot of people who are like, it'd be really fun to watch something fun, not...
and I think that's what people are going to get into is how fun and kind of scary and gory and over the top it is. And then, the worry, of course, is that, Sam only did the first episode, but, like with any show, the first one sets up the tone. The second episode's fun. I mean, yes, there is a mild dip in quality because it's a lower budget now for the future episodes. But in terms of the humor, the gore, the kind of creative angles, the way that they tell the story, it's pretty much all in line. So also the first one I think is like a 52-minute episode, whereas all the remaining ones will be a half hour.
30 minutes. Did Murawski just do the first one, editing?
I definitely did the first one. I don't know if he edited the other episodes.
No.
But they all felt, I mean, the first two were great. It felt great. And everyone's going to love it. It's just...
the effects, are they more practical or digital? Because that was something that fans always really loved about the first three.
It's like 90% practical.
Oh.
Like everything's practical. There's little digital enhancements here and there. And I know people usually frown at that, but it's actually funny. It's like the way they do certain little gags. It's kind of like just for the ridiculous camera angle of it, like a way of seeing a Deadite get cut in half that you've never seen before. So you could tell it's a practical puppet, but then there's a little bit of CG enhancement with some of the blood.
Does
and
Ted
stuff
Raimi
like
play a fake Shemp?
Ted's not in it yet that I could tell.
Fake Shemps, beware.
Yeah, but no, it's pretty awesome, and I don't want to give much away because really, it's just if you love the Evil Dead series, I can't imagine you not going nuts for this. And they announced that they already picked up a second season.
Cool.
Awesome.
Is this like a 12-episode thing?
10.
10. Okay,
keeping it nice and tight. So 10 episodes.
So get Starz for 10 weeks, drop Starz for a year,
for
get
Starz
season.
I'm hoping that it reappears on like Hulu or Amazon Prime.
Will.
Quickly.
Maybe they'll sell it to Netflix after first
somebody
season.
asked me, but I think because they had Spartacus on Starz, right?
Yeah.
And I think those popped up on like iTunes, so you could probably buy and rent an episode if you.
It's
really
largely
wanted
the
to.
same production company, same people. That's why Lucy
All New
Lawless
Zealand,
and Tappert, and it's like all the same town they're shooting in.
Yeah, but it's just great. I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Awesome.
Excited.
What else?
Oh, I saw a lot of stuff. Well, me and Bekah judged the Knoxville Horror Film Festival, which meant catching up on a ton of stuff. I don't want to go in depth on all of it, but some of the highlights. There was a feature that was interesting. I'm not a big fan. I think I've decided I'm completely done with found footage on the studio level. Like I understand an independent going, oh, this is the cheapest way to tell me a story.
You just enjoyed the visit, but we had this discussion where you said it wasn't found footage.
Yeah, I mean, it's not found footage. It's just shot doc style, right? She's making a film. She never dies, and it isn't left there. But there's this film called Interior, which is a lo-fi indie. Halfway through is mostly comic. The guy goes into chart whether a house is haunted for his ex-girlfriend, and so she leaves and goes off with her family, and it's just this guy alone for the entire movie with his camera, and it's actually got some pretty fun effects and some creepy kind of demon stuff, and it's done so lo-fi that you had to kind of tip your hat to especially to the lead actor for keeping a movie watchable. You know what I mean? I thought it was fun. That one, I think we didn't give it an award, but it won like an audience award. But the main winner for us was was Deathgasm, won the big award.
Oh yeah, we loved that one.
It's a great film. But some of the shorts I just wanted to mention. Sister Hell was something that didn't get an award, but is a really dark, weird movie. House of Straw, and one of my favorite movies, Crowhand. Remember that movie I used to talk about a lot?
Yeah.
The director has a second film, which is like almost my favorite movie of the year right now because it's so weird. It's like one of the grossest things I've ever seen. It's basically like basket case. No,
it's
like brain damage.
All weekend.
It's more like brain damage with
a short or
yeah,
it's
like 5 minutes, and it's this little thing called Gwilliam, and it's this thing that's basically going to give you head with no teeth, and it's a little monster, and it's going to be the best you've ever had, and it is the weirdest, grossest little thing. And as soon as it ended, I was just like, oh yeah, this guy is like Helen Lauder's like Air. Like if he gets to make a feature, it's between that and Crowhand, I'm like, that guy's on a good roll.
And I think it's a guy's film because I finished watching it and I was like, that was really gross.
Yeah.
Huh, next one. And then
really
Elric has been talking about it all
I love
weekend.
Gwilliam.
And I was like,
Gwilliam?
it was amusing for me, but not my favorite short.
I'm a sucker for creatures, like weird creatures you've never seen before. I will say the
creature looked awesome. It was just like, but I really liked like my favorite weird one of the festival because we got to pick our favorite weird one, which I think you put Gwilliam down
Gwilliam
for.
Definitely. Yeah.
I really liked the chickening. Why is Mike flipping us off? Dude, come in. Don't be a loser.
They'll start talking. Don't let them talk.
But I really liked the chickening, which was The Shining redone with chickens.
Yeah, animated chickens.
And a DJ, and it was really bizarre. And so I really enjoyed the chickening.
Yeah, it's fun. That was like really bonkers. That felt like an experimental thing.
It was fun to see Dick Grennett's The Trap was in there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I like that show.
We really liked that one a lot.
There's another feature that like almost was really interesting.
You liked Sunchoke.
Yeah, well, no, that's the problem with Sunchoke. It's because I like Sunchoke, but the last act of it, it basically sets up a really unique, weird movie where you're like, oh, what is this going to be? The payoff could be anything. Like it's Barbara Crampton basically playing these like psychological games with this young woman who has been put in her care. But she's not like torturing her, and not purposely. It seems like she needs to do this because this girl's so off the hook, and it builds and builds. And we gave Best Actress to the actress, and it's Sarah Hagen. And I felt like the conclusion went to somewhere kind of very routine, like almost what you expect in like student and torture films. And so I think it's really worth people checking this movie out. It's interesting, but it never fulfills what I was hoping, the direction I was going.
Sunchoke.
It's definitely like more indie
and
art house / horror.
I told Elric, I was like, you'll like it in advance because things happen, but nothing really happens.
Yeah, which is just my genre. Death Wave! Okay, suck it, Stevens. Not that he listens, so I can get away with that one. I get one. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. I'll come up in natural.
Or not.
I think that was all the ones. I mean, all the others were films we had seen, or Tales of Halloween, all that stuff.
Yeah,
tons of shorts.
Deathgasm definitely was like my favorite of the festival. So that was like I think our winner for that one. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's gory too, which is great.
Yeah, that was a good time. And I caught Crimson Peak.
Oh, you saw it. What's your verdict?
Did Selena make you go?
No, I wanted to see it, but I actually really like. I like kind of gothic romance. Like if I have to see a romance in the world, I always like that subgenre. Things like the Olivier Wuthering Heights and things like that always kind of just capture the imagination. Things that have slight ghost stories. There's things about it I really liked. I liked the setting. I did not really care for. Maya Wasikowski on this one. I really liked her in Stoker, and for something about this role, I just didn't ever understand what she wanted. Why they liked each other. Like the romance. I think that's what I'm getting at. The romance wasn't actually nailed. Like they never felt romantic between them. Sure, there was another romance, but in terms of, there's a lot I liked about it. I definitely liked the way it looked. I liked the setting, and the last 20 minutes is actually really quite electric for a film that's otherwise kind of a little stagnant and clunky along the way, and then suddenly it comes to life, like with these kind of knife fights, and there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, it's a weird movie given how it's just a huge movie where it's a very little has to actually happen for it to.
Do you agree with my thoughts that it really didn't need ghosts or to be rated R?
No, but I did enjoy, like as a movie watcher, I liked those really violent moments. They added something for me, but I understand, like financially, yes, they would have made a lot more money if they didn't go that far in those scenes. More people would have seen it. But I know those scenes worked for me, like Jim Beaver scene. So spoiler, go back and listen to when I said spoiler and then keep listening. Too late. Oh well. Jim Beaver probably doesn't survive any movie he's ever been in, so it's probably safe to say. Walking Dead's off to a great start. Lots of big stuff happening. Won't even talk about it. But it's definitely.
Why mention it?
Well, because it's the best. I think it's for those who haven't watched. It's the best season of the show so far. So I think it's worth looking at. A quick couple others. I borrowed your Contamination disc, which is right here.
That one's a little slow.
Well, it's like it was always called like the Alien ripoff. The actual film itself has a couple really fun gore scenes, but the actual film, it's like, oh my god, they just keep. It's one of those films where they keep traveling places.
Yeah,
like suddenly it's like the New York shipyards, and then it's suddenly let's go to Baja or let's go to Bali. Now let's go to Indonesia. And you're like, what is going? Like, why are you going to all these places?
But the effects are cool.
Yeah, and then every time, and there's a really cool monster flashback they keep going back to, which is a little reminiscent of Alien, but the better thing on this disc, it's an Arrow disc, and it had a documentary which was all about the Italian ripoffs, and it went through all the subgenres that Italians ripped off, and it was about 30 minutes, and it was actually a pretty good documentary with Maitland McDonough and another exploitation expert, and it was almost worth it just for that part, to be honest. The movie is a little slow. I ordered the Under the Skin Blu-ray because I hadn't watched it again since the theater, and the American version has no extras, and that's what I ordered. Like about 3 weeks ago, I ordered it, said it'd be here in 5 days. 3 weeks later, I get a copy in the mail from Germany, I don't know what the fuck happened on Amazon. I get this German import. I'm like, fuck, this isn't even going to work on my player. Put it in, works perfectly, and has like a 2-hour documentary about every single step of the making of the film that is not in the American.
Wow.
And it was so fucking awesome because I've been wondering since I saw like the process of shooting the things where it goes into the black pool, and it's like this breaks the whole thing down beat by beat. It literally breaks. I've never seen a making of do this. It goes chapter by chapter. It's like editing, performance, casting, like literally these are the chapters, and it's like, and it was obviously made for a British television, this DVD. So I would recommend people buying this version because this is like, I felt like I kind of got lucky.
There's something like that on the US Blu-ray.
I thought I looked up the US and it was just like a trailer and a...
No, there's something on there, but I don't know if it's as extensive as a 2-hour thing.
I don't think it, yeah. Well, what I looked up, I just don't understand how this even happened through Amazon. Right. It was just like a buy for, it was like $6 disc and it took 3 weeks. So fuck knows how that happened. And then me and you saw a movie.
Oh, yeah. We went to go see Prince of Darkness last night at the church where it actually took place.
Mm-hmm. And who did I sit next to?
Oh, I forgot his name, but it was actually funny. So
Make it rain. Make it rain. Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China, the guy, the lightning guy.
Oh, yeah. One of the
guy was always intimidating. Yeah, the guy who always looked kind of the toughest of the three brothers.
Yeah, that was the fun of it because I picked up Elric yesterday. We went to, it's in downtown LA, the church, and it's now like God, I wish I wrote it
looked like a cultural arts center.
Yeah, they made it into an art center, so they actually do like small plays there, and they show movies there all the time. It's kind of been set up for that. But it's funny because we were like both so kind of spent and tired, like, oh man, I don't even want to go out tonight. But the second we pulled up and saw the church, we're like, oh man, I'm ready,
because it just looks exactly like a scene from the movie. It's great,
and you immediately recognize it as like, oh, that's the freaking church. So super cool. Sean Clark set up the whole event back when he did the Scream Factory Horrors Hallowed Ground for it, and when he found out they screened movies there, he's like, wait, have you ever shown Prince of Darkness here? And they're like, no. And they're like, you have to do it. So it was pretty cool. They set up a few spots for photo ops, like some spots that are in the movie if you want to just take pictures and stuff. And then, we went in, and I mean, what was cool is like the theater where all the seats are is where they set up in the movie all the equipment to analyze this, like the cylinder with the green fluid and stuff like that. So it was kind of fun to just be there, and then a few minutes later see it kind of play out on screen, and we're right in the middle of where this all happens. And yeah,
it's small. I mean, it felt like a very intimate.
Yeah, and there was this proper guy in his seat sitting next to Elric.
Yeah, he was taking up all the arm space, and he was dressed like a very well dressed Asian guy, and I'm just like, who's this guy? And he's with this really young, attractive blonde girl, like literally looked like she was 19 or something. Yeah. And I was like, who's this guy taking my arm space?
Sean Clark pointed him out. He's like, oh, if you guys like Big Trouble in Little China, there's whatever his name is in the movie.
I can't remember.
The Raiden guy, essentially.
I probably saw that movie more than any movie as a young person.
And we got really excited. We're like, oh my God, he's sitting next to us.
And I gave him arm room the whole time. I didn't even fuck with him. I just like, get my arm like this.
You got dead arm, man.
It was pretty cool. But it was, you know what I thought about the movie after watching it? I think I've decided it's my favorite of his non-masterpieces, of the ones that are like in the canon. But there's like
it's not so good ones. That's my favorite.
A lot of his movies, like, it's not like vampires.
No.
Hey. Or Ghost of Mars. When can I talk? You don't get to talk today. I shouldn't have mentioned Ghost of Mars.
Mike Williamson.
Whenever you hear they're the episodes we talk over each other, it's when you're here. But I like
Ghost of Mars. I'll defend it.
Oh man, God, you guys are sick people. Let's go for Phantoms. Yeah.
No. Ghost of Mars. It's like what I fall asleep to.
I'm gonna finish my thought. The effects and the horror moments of it, I really think are some of his best. But there's and the comedy is actually really good too. But there's also a lot of like weird clunky stuff at the start. And what I'd love to see is a scientist do a YouTube video breaking down the science in that movie, because I think so much of it is absolute fucking bullshit. Like, but in a way where like I've never seen a movie go so in depth on the bullshit. Yeah. And so maybe he's basing it on a lot of real things, because I know the idea came from reading like quantum physics or some shit.
I didn't realize he didn't write that one.
Yeah, he did. It's a pseudonym. It's a Quatermass pseudonym.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I did question fucking talk. Back to the pit creature. It's always a bad sign when the people we don't let talk know more than we do. Like, get your own podcast. But I just thought it was really fun. I think it's a really fun movie, and I think it has enough really original, almost Lovecraftian things, like just like this thing with the green liquid going around. Things that you haven't seen in a movie before. I've never seen something quite like that. And those little video flashbacks of the future being beamed to you are really fucking atmospheric.
Yeah, those are cool.
It's a cool movie. It's just not a perfect movie like some of his films feel like so well rounded.
Yeah.
The tone is so different, you know.
Yeah, totally.
I had a blast, and I'll just finish. The last thing I saw was the movie I'd been trying to see for like the last year, The Resurrected by Dan O'Bannon. I had mentioned on the show that I was looking for this new Blu-ray of the director's cut that's from England or Germany, and one of our listeners brought me a copy of it at screening last week, and he also gave me a copy of the Necronomicon on Blu-ray, which I still maintain is like one of the best anthologies. Just period.
The book of the
Yuzna and the other two directors. It's just fucking gorgeous on Blu-ray.
I've mentioned that in so many, all of two lists that we've done on Blumhouse so far. One on like Lovecraft films you've never seen, and another one
on Deathwave.
Like
Deathwave. Hashtag suck it.
It came up twice, and both times I've gotten a lot of responses like, "Why have I never heard of this? It looks amazing."
It's just like Society. I haven't got a release here. It's like, I mean, there's VHS, but
that was
it's
it.
really
It was on
fun.
my Lost on VHS piece.
I actually think it's the best Lovecraftian, one of the best Lovecraftian things, because it's just like each one's a different take on it. But anyway, I rewatched that kind of accidentally after I watched the other one, and just was kind of impressed. But Resurrected wasn't the tone I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to. The cover was like this very serious, straight, dark Lovecraftian horror, and in fact, it's like it's almost like it feels kind of like a trial run for In the Mouth of Madness's tone, which is like a detective story coming in and then releasing, but the drama itself is like really clunky at the start. The first hour really takes time, and then when it gets you into like kind of the lab and then into a tunnel, the monsters in there are fucking amazing. Like some of the craziest practicals. I'm sure Mike's also chomping.
Well, I have to talk now because I have a question for you. So because I love that movie, and you said it's the director's cut.
Mm-hmm. That's what it says. That's why it got remastered.
Because I don't know what was missing. Here. I can see
here's
it
my
on
question:
his face.
is that when Dan O'Bannon passed, they had a retrospective at the Egyptian, and they screened because he was kicked off the movie, right?
Mike Williamson.
I didn't know why. I didn't know why there was a director's cut in the first place. He was kicked off.
Yeah, he was kicked out during post production, and did Richard Band do the score?
Yeah.
So he wasn't involved in any of that. Like he saw the movie, and that was the first time he heard the score. But at the Egyptian, they screened a VHS work print copy of where it was when he left, basically. And so I'm curious.
Do you remember any of those scenes? I'll just lend it to you and you tell me, because it says director's cut though.
So I'm curious because I'm curious where this is coming from.
I mean, it's all perfect footage. There's no bad footage.
There's multiple cuts on it though?
No. This guy got, there's probably extras all on the, because this will be a German release that's probably coded. Whatever the listener gave me was just the film.
Just that one, because I think there's like 4 cuts or something on it.
Okay.
Something crazy.
So who knows what I got?
Yeah, what I saw at the Egyptian was, honestly, it was unwatchable because it was just such poor quality. I was sort of
like when we saw the Nightbreed thing early.
The Nightbreed one.
I mean, imagine like a VHS dub blown up on the Egyptian screen. You're just like, oh my God.
Yeah. I can't.
So you must have loved it.
I mean, I did love it because I love the movie, but my ears perked up when you said director's cut, and I wondered
I'll lend it to you.
From whence that came.
It's really cool though. Like once you're in it, and once you get, it's still got the tone of all those films we were talking about from that period. From Reanimator to what was the one I watched the other week that Charlie Band did, the short that got lost.
I'm
with Barbara Crampton,
With
and the priest Jeffrey Combs.
Evil clergy.
You're not allowed to talk either. This is how reliant we are on
the voice of your conscience.
No. Here we go. All right, we're gonna
introduce you so you can slowly come in.
Shane and Mike into this now.
This is like the Wizard of Oz. We have a curtain, and Mike Williamson has run in and grabbed the curtain and ripped it down.
Shane's now set it on fire.
This does not surprise me at all.
Mike's at 9 o'clock, and I walk in here, and you're already. I feel like
no. Well, obviously you haven't listened to the show in a while, probably, but
I didn't know you make people wait outside.
Sometimes we do.
We come early. People that listen tend to like hearing us catch up on what we've seen over the week, so we tend to come in about
like we hang out and I get to watch you.
We come in usually a half hour early to get that
likes
done.
To watch, guys.
Before everyone shows up.
We'll still have time. There's still a couple minutes left.
So let's introduce them and then finish up.
Back to what we've seen.
Because I have a sneaky suspicion that Mike's going to want to chime in on the other movies I've seen. So screw it. Let's bring him in.
Me too.
This is the hardest I've ever done to keep my mouth shut.
Mendez was the best at that, right?
Right. Oh, God.
Mendez almost exploded the first time he came on the show.
And we mentioned like it's alive or whatever.
Remember Dick came in just to watch one time, and you could see him over in the corner. Like he would sit over in the corner because he just wanted to watch, and like he kept doing that face, and then his face would turn red, and he'd like do this.
But then when he got to talk, all he said is, "Oh, it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece." Burn, Nick, burn.
All right, so joining us on the show, returning guest, a director friend of ours, a filmmaker who just finished a short called Deathly.
Halloween aficionado.
Really cool. Both our guests are Halloween aficionados, which is why we brought him in for the Halloween episode. Welcome back to the show, Mike Williamson.
Yay!
From one of our favorite and least favorite episodes we've ever done. You either love it or you hated it.
I think there's two of them.
Oh yeah, but the debates, especially the debates.
I love it or hate it.
The drunken debates is definitely a hit or miss. There's no in between. And also joining us is a writer friend of ours. We talked about this guy a few weeks ago when we had Del on for the literary episode because he's part of this anthology that I'm looking at right now called 18 Wheels of Horror. Welcome to the show, Shane Bitterling.
That's Halloween aficionado, Shane Bitterling.
Halloween aficionado as well.
I really like that cover of that book.
It's super cool.
That cover is awesome.
But he's also worked a lot in the band world and other worlds.
Yeah, you do a lot of full moon
lot of
movies.
secret work
Better
there.
or worse, you've done a lot of full moon stuff.
And he recently wrote a very classy movie called Black Sunrise that is going to be a classy production.
Oh, is that yours?
Oh, that's right.
Well, no, it is, but it's
that is the first time he's actually mentioned the project on
the show.
I refuse to be self-serving, but he's here, so I gotta.
You're get over it because we're talking about it for 2 hours.
Throw the money in, Williamson. $1 here.
And actually, both Shane and Mike are my vinyl buddies. Well, I talk nonstop with Shane about soundtracks when they're coming out. We're always like lamenting to ourselves, like, do I get it? Do I not?
Another one this month.
And Williamson is my rock buddy. We talk 90s rock.
Williamson's my hair metal.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
We too.
Elric's the only one that doesn't get to hang out with me.
Yeah, Elric. You gotta find a way to you gotta find a way to Williamson bond.
We got a cap on it.
I want to be your hair metal buddy.
You can. This is
How much Saigon kick do you know, sir?
Anyway,
Their catalog.
back to Dan O'Bannon. Did he die soon after that?
No.
So he just never got back
years.
to finish it. Was it? Did you know anything about how it got released and stuff?
Well, it was just a traditional thing of the producers didn't like his cut, so they kicked him off and finished it without him. It wasn't like a long, drawn-out process thing. I mean, if I remember correctly, his wife was there to talk about it, too, at that screening.
One of the weirdest performances by Chris Sarandon. He plays this, he plays kind of the possessed thing. It's a little more complicated without spoilers, but it's just a very mannered, strange. It kind of works once you're in it, but while you're watching it, quite a few of them it's like a lot of them are different movies performance-wise, and that's what kind of makes it a little. It takes a while, I think, to get it. But it's very of its time, too. It's very end of the 80s, early 90s aesthetic. It almost feels like somewhere Miami Vice mixed with like a Lovecraft film. I don't know.
Have you guys not seen it?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
It's really good. And I told Elric earlier today, for the topic of this episode, I actually saw it. It must have been 92
when it came
on
out.
Halloween night, pay-per-view.
Oh, wow.
That's when I saw the Resurrected for the first time.
I hope this release comes out here though, because I was looking for it for a long time, and it's like $40 on Diabolic, so I didn't want to buy it in case. And it's the monsters and it's a couple of tweets that I exchanged with friends who are writers were like, I'll suffer a lot of shit. I'll eat a lot of dick to get to a great creature in a movie, and like William.
I think you're giving it enough credit. I'm not saying that this movie's bad. I'm just saying I agree with that. Like I was looking, it started because I recommended this Halloween that he see The Unnameable, which was a movie I really liked as a kid, which was also I love the creature because the creature was like nothing else. But then you watch the movie again, and the drama and the teen stuff is just kind of whatever.
Yeah,
it's kind
I
of
have
bullshit.
a VHS copy of The Unnameable, and I don't think I've ever really made it through.
But it's worth it because like the monsters, if you can create an original monster in one of these movies, or there's an original that doesn't fit into one of the 5 key categories of vampire, zombie, mummy, whatever, it's fucking really hard to do. And,
so what do you think
rewarding.
is one of the most original movie monsters that's not a stock character?
Ooh.
He's going to say Possession.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, there's a lot. I think all those movies you were talking about.
You know what I think it might be? It might be Pumpkinhead.
I was going to say Pumpkinhead. That's gotta be
if you're looking for one
one.
that's it's like a brilliant myth. Like that one just has a world that's so rich to its own. Yeah. A lot of them are just like great visually, but the myth hasn't really been.
And I gotta say, I think that's one of the reasons that I like aquatic horror so much. Is usually if you have an aquatic horror, it's a creature feature, and I always find the aquatic creatures to be far more riveting than anything that I'm going to find elsewhere.
Who likes Dagon?
Hell yeah.
But also I think that's why Lovecraft
great.
is both like why I probably actually seek out Lovecraftian projects, but also why they often don't work for the masses is because they never fit into a box, but they're always more interesting. And I think your average person doesn't necessarily want that. You know, they're just looking for
average
people.
If
you're out there and you're average listening, you're an idiot.
Hashtag
If you go to
deep
one of
rising
those
rules.
HP Lovecraft Fests where they have all those films there, I mean, the normal person would
Cthulhu,
fall asleep in 2
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
I mean,
Where is that? Is that Portland?
they have one in San Pedro.
Yeah, they do.
They also
but
do
they do
one.
have one in Portland.
There's also one on the East Coast that they do. That I don't know. I'm going to just assume Massachusetts, just a guess. But I know there's one on the East Coast.
Yeah, and next year's Death Wave Fest, there will be no Lovecraft admitted. I mean, deep stories of drama, horror.
Keep fanning the fires. Oh my
Guys,
god.
I saw some
elevated
movies this
Lovecraft.
week.
Yeah, me and Becca saw movies that we didn't get to yet. Becca, what'd you see?
So I watched Goodnight, Mommy.
Oh,
Yeah.
No spoilers. I'm dying to see it.
No
Me
spoilers.
too.
I will
Same.
say it's this is not a spoiler. It's a plot you've seen before, but you won't realize you've seen it until like the last 5 minutes, and then you're going to go, oh. Okay.
Now it's been very divisive. So do you fall
Meatballs too?
on the like? I know, right?
I didn't enjoy it.
Well, I like
didn't
it.
like it.
But
okay.
I will say, I enjoyed like the first hour. And then the last half an hour completely shifts the tone of the movie. It's something, I mean, just basic like plot structure. If you think
You
like
said too much.
I already fucking love it. Based on what you just said, which is I did not like it much. I love it.
just based on
I'm
the
in.
plot structure alone,
Elric's
it
in.
functions in this kind of the same way as like Martyrs or Red, White, and Blue, where you think you're watching one movie and then like halfway through it completely shifts and then it becomes something different. And I liked the first half, but I did not like where it went.
Is it German?
I would have
Austrian or
said
something.
Norwegian or Swedish or something like that.
So it's German.
It looked very
It was
IKEA.
French, but I think I'm just confusing it. I just think of eyes
French?
without
No,
a
it's not
face.
French.
when I-
Yeah, the picture looked
Yeah.
the surgical
Well,
horror. Does
it's
it go into surgical horror like the Skin I Lived in, that Almodovar one recently?
No.
It looked okay. It looked a little bit like that.
a
No,
great
it
trailer.
doesn't.
Yeah, it is a good show.
You don't even really. The surgical thing is completely separate. Like you kind of just hear about why she's like that, but it's separate from everything.
I really
else.
want to see it.
The
Yeah, me too,
trailer
yeah.
is amazing. Like the trailer completely sold me on it. I will say it's got some really good music in it. And again, like the first half of the movie, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then by the second half, I was like, oh, that's where you're going to go with it. So I'm anxious to
Interesting.
see what you guys
If
think
you
of
had
it.
stick a label, either elevated horror or death wave on it, which of the two? I'm pretty sure we only have those two now, right? Like we're done with French Society.
Those are the
Society
only movies that we can make
October
anymore.
Society, but they are self-labeled, so you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
Death
good.
Wave, though.
Oh, that's okay,
No,
yeah,
they're
you're right.
already over. They don't
Yeah.
exist.
Oh, that's right.
anymore.
Everything's
Apparently.
past.
It's already done.
only been 2 days.
We're
It's
past
gone.
them. So I saw Bone Tomahawk, which I thought was amazing.
No one's seen it, but we're all like,
I know.
"Oh."
So I'm not going to give you guys any spoilers on that one. I'll just say Kurt Russell is fucking amazing in everything that he does. It's gory and extreme as shit. It's 2.5 hours long, but you will notice that it's 2.5 hours long. Like it's grueling, but you will love every minute of it. So, and it's horror Western. It's more Western than horror, but the horror is definitely prevalent because it's him. Cannibals have kidnapped this man's wife. This is all in the first 5 minutes. I'm not giving spoilers. Cannibals have kidnapped this man's wife. And so it's this team of kind of Western, I can't even call them outlaws because there's like a sheriff involved, that go to kind of hunt the cannibals down and try to get the wife back. And so it's really gory at the same time. And it's a Western, so it's really fucking intense. But I love that
Did
one.
you see it on VOD?
I watched it on VOD. It was on Amazon.
Did you see it?
No,
I thought you went to Beyond Fest.
Yeah, because the
No,
thing
I
with
didn't
me and
see it
Elric,
there.
we've been discussing like, oh, maybe we should. It might be because it's a Western. It might be the type of movie we
Scale.
should try to see on the big screen.
I don't know
But-
when it would do theatrical because it just
it's got-
finish
it's got
theatrical.
somewhere.
It was like at the Burbank. It's a traditional image release at the Burbank Mall.
Oh, we got one theater in the Burbank Mall.
Yeah, and it's one of those
we're
ones
done.
that they can't even really scale like
Yeah.
it follows or try to because it's already out there and
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
made
why
this to
people-
VOD. I have a
It's
good
such a stupid
yeah.
thing.
I mean, it's
No,
Kurt Russell.
I know. If you
I
have
know.
like a movie, I mean,
Yeah.
give it a couple weeks for Christ's
Right,
sakes.
exactly.
Like Kurt Russell was an Overboard.
I mean, it's I don't even call that a limited release
tangoing
anymore. It's like a
cash.
show
Come
release,
on.
you know.
Well, he's just one of them.
Yeah.
Just to be fair.
But yeah, totally worth it. I recommend that one a lot. My favorite movie that I watched within the past week, like this one is probably going to end up in my top 10 films of the year, Final Girls. is hilarious.
Another device.
Hold on, I just have to have a sip of beer before I bitch slap you.
I know. I love this movie.
All right, and ready to tango.
You didn't like it?
No, I reviewed. Maybe I reviewed it the week you were away.
I can't remember. It was last week.
No,
a couple
I didn't
weeks.
know
It
you had
was-
seen it, so it must have been the week I was gone.
It wasn't that, look, I thought the concept, like the Back to the Future of horror, is like fucking perfect. It's like honestly one of the best ideas of the year. The choice of director for me is, I'm guessing that's my problem with it, because the tone, the guy is like pure comedy director, right? Like,
Yeah, it's very much more comedy than horror.
It felt like it felt like he'd never seen a slasher film. It felt like all the slasher scenes felt like they were ripping off Wet Hot American Summer, not Friday the 13th, even though it's meant to look like Friday the 13th. And so every time they're doing like the silly humor, I'm like, really? But like, couldn't you have ripped off something that we recognized as a slasher film? Because I actually am kind of happy when people like this movie, because it at least tried for the emotional tone. And I think the emotional story with the mom stuff is really cool. And I think if they'd pulled off the horror stuff as well, it probably would have been one of my favorite films of the year.
I will
the
say,
cast was great. You saw it, right?
The cast was amazing.
The cast, everyone's
And
perfectly put in there.
That's one of the... I was really torn with that movie. I ended up... I just don't like it. It was too wink for me, but it's the only movie where I said, oh my God, I love all the characters. I love the actors.
And you
playing,
cared a little bit at the start.
I never
Yeah.
say that about anything, because I hate everybody.
He hates everything. He's the opposite of Mike.
Kurt Russell. And the
yeah.
girl who plays Supergirl.
Yeah. That's right.
She's my new crush. but I loved everybody in it, and I was just like, oh my God, it's so wink.
Yeah,
It is.
And
It's
I am
very
so
wink.
but not like
tired
Cabin
of
in the Woods, where
wink.
Cabin in the Woods is so clever
Right.
that it's allowed to wink. This
Right.
is just like going, oh, it's a horror trope. I mean, but I don't
the
like
moment
begrudge
when
you for liking, because I actually get it. I get what people
burn
do.
at the bottom. It's Friday the 13th, whatever.
Yeah.
it
But
is,
then
and
it
they
was
trip
funny because
over
they
it.
trip over it.
That's what I just can't stand.
That gag I did get a little giggle on that one, but I know, It's for me, it was like I really got the feeling like the guy just wasn't even aware of the genre. Like I honestly felt like this guy got a really cool script, and was like they gave it to him because he's like a big comedy director, like Harold and Kumar and all these movies.
There were nods, like the guy, the killer. Whenever he would appear in a silhouette, he always was the cover of The Burning with the blade up. I mean, there were tiny little nods that were obviously there. Even like the flashback sequences where they're clearly going back to Friday the 13th and things like that.
Oh yeah, no, the references were clear, but I'm sure they're in the script. I honestly got the feeling like it's a really good script.
Yeah, and in fact, Josh Miller, who does the Friday Night Frights at Cinefamily, had mentioned to me about this film because it's written or co-written by what's his name? Joshua Miller? Is that his name?
The Friday Night Frights guy?
No. The
Josh Miller's the Friday Night Frights guy.
Yeah, I know, but the little kid from Near Dark, Jason Miller's son.
Oh.
I thought it was Joshua Miller as well, which I'm going to have to look up.
Oh, weird.
But he became a writer, and he's the co-writer of it.
Oh, interesting.
And he's definitely got a horror history.
Yeah.
So I feel like, if anything, if any of those references...
I didn't know who the director was. All I knew is, as I watched it, all I kept thinking about was the directing, and kept thinking, I just don't feel like this guy knows what he's satirizing. And then as soon as I looked up and saw it was just like every kind of broad comedy movie.
Joshua Miller.
It is Josh Miller.
Interesting. Weird.
Who was the little kid from Teen Witch and Near Dark and River's Edge.
Oh, shit. It's the kid from Teen Witch.
And his father was in The Exorcist. Father Karras. So, he's a screenwriter now, and he co-wrote this. So I feel like...
But I think it did pretty well, and like I know people like Zimmerman and that loved it. I saw
everybody loves it, but you and me.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the wrong side.
It's not horror. It's definitely more comedy.
It's a comedy.
If you like Wet Hot American Summer, this is kind of your thing.
It is.
Like,
The girl who plays the tramp is really funny in there.
So fun.
She's really funny.
Yeah.
But also, it's the young girl from the first season of American Horror Story and the third season, and she's as the lead. Farmiga, and she's really good. And
Everybody's
the thing
good.
is, the first 20 minutes, you actually give a shit, which is hard to do in movies nowadays. You give a shit about her, you give a shit about her mom, and so it creates this Back to the Future structure that you can go back and maybe change things through a horror movie. Like home run, as far as I'm concerned. And then for me, it just like never lived up to that from there on. I still enjoyed watching it, but it just it's not my kind of bag.
Well,
is it in VOD now, or is that
it is.
out?
I watched it on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that
I
out.
would be interested to see what some fans like, just because.
Yeah.
Or think
I think
about
they'll like it. I think
everybody likes it.
Yeah.
But you and
What's wrong
I.
with you two?
Let's see if Mike likes it.
From the sound of it, I didn't like Wet Hot American Summer. I don't like stuff that really forces the.
I remember seeing the editor with him at Beyond, and I was sitting. I was sitting next to him thinking he was going to love it. For some reason, like even halfway through, I think, I wonder if Mike's loving this kind of comedy, and then turning to him him. He just was out of everyone there. I liked the first 15 minutes and then I was out.
Yeah, I thought
he just hated short.
Yeah,
I was curious about like that because you seem to like that kind of comedy when it's in small doses in a horror film, but when the whole tone goes that way, what is it that you don't like about a movie like that?
Well, there were many things I didn't like about the editor. I don't want to totally like bash a movie, but it's the sort of first of all, I don't like movies that act like they are better than the movies that they are satirizing because like Zucker Brothers didn't do that, And in fact, you could watch a Zucker Brothers movie and not even really know that they were satirizing a genre if you were like a kid or something. But something like The Editor, where it's them dubbed and it's supposed to be funny because it's like, oh, look at these idiots from the 70s that couldn't like record themselves. It's like, if you know anything about this kind of stuff, then you know that was a technical process that was very common, and it
was economic, right? It was to make money in different countries.
Exactly, because they're going to speak English and dub it with someone that did, and so it's just like, it's not funny it's like they don't even get what they're
right.
And then so there was some stuff in The Editor I like the zany sort of Zucker Brothers gags that weren't mocking the genre. But stuff people said like that's a love letter to Italian horror. It's a fucking middle finger to Italian horror.
And
films.
It also wasn't a great movie. Like it just goes on and on.
Oh my god, it's so fucking.
You can't satirize a movie and go on and on.
Those guys' movies, because
Astron 6.
I've watched them all or fast forward. When I watched this one, I was like, fast forward isn't fast enough for this fucking shit. Because they're all like 70 minutes long, 80 minutes long, but they feel like 7 or 8 hours. They have the most awful pacing.
Yeah, it's just like when someone like makes a parody of a silent film and everyone's walking really fast. Yeah. To me, it just shows their ignorance.
They haven't actually watched
because those were shot at 18 frames per second, and the only reason they're fast is because now they're 24 and it hasn't been transferred correctly. It's like that's not how they fucking look, you idiot. You're mocking the wrong thing. If you want to mock video transfer processes of the fucking set,
that's very specific.
Such a Mike thing. So
let's talk about 35 millimeter.
I've also watched the new episode of American Horror Story and super psyched because the one from this week should be on my DVR by the time I get home tonight. So I'm psyched.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, and what I didn't even realize until somebody pointed it out to me that he's been sitting in front of me every month. The guy who plays the addiction monster and the mattress monster in this season. Is in he's now in the Dismemberment Goblins, but he comes to trivia and he's been
something
a monster
that no
in
one
like
listening will understand.
No, but like
which guy is it?
He's
I can't picture him.
The Dismemberment Goblins. He was dressed up as 28 Days Later.
Oh, okay,
that's him. He's been in like a shit ton. He was in last season
I saw him last week,
but he's been in all of these American Horror Stories, and he always plays the monster because he's really tall and head shaved and everything, and kind of gangly.
So he's the freaky humper.
He's the freaky drill humper and the guy who crawled out of the mattress at the beginning so far. And I saw him.
Oh, that's cool.
There was another scene where they were doing a flashback to the 1950s serial killer. And they show him dropping a body down the chute, and then they show all these corpses, and he was laying there on top. And I was like, holy shit, that's him. His name's Alexander.
What do you think? I want to hear your thoughts on this season. Do you think it's a bit more of a return than the last one? Because the last one was impossible to get through.
Yeah, last one was, and I thought last one was going to be awesome because I love
freak show stuff is the best
stuff.
Yeah.
The only season that I've watched all the way through is Asylum.
Yeah.
And that thing just was all over the place, but I was completely kind of engaged by it. I give up on the show after about 4 or 5 episodes on every season because it's like, oh, it's pretty, it's neat, but I'd rather buy a book of the production design or the costumes and everything because I realize like there's no content here.
Besides the first season, it's hard to
what
find
a negative episode of Killer POV
is. I know you guys are just
I enjoy it, but it's
but the word is through line. Like a character who has a through line from start to end of a movie. It's like all these characters one upping each other with craziness. Yeah. But you need that story that has that one thing that, like for Walking Dead, Rick. Like sure he might die at some point, but like you have something to follow.
Yeah. Murder House had that.
No, the first one had it. That's why you followed it like a story. But
Coven totally had that.
Yeah, I mean I'm still watching. I'm watching more.
This one I'm enjoying
this
so far
one than I am the other ones, because Freak Show, I couldn't believe, like, because my wife gives up first. She's like, I'm kind of done. Yeah. And then I hold on out of pride for 2 or 3 more episodes. Like, I'm done.
He is the biggest monster, because we got these Halloween guys on the show. I do want to say he is literally the biggest monster I've ever seen in a room.
I didn't even, this is so off the rails. I didn't even finish the movies I've seen this week.
No, let's keep doing it. I just wanted to say that he has this giant monster that takes up half his living room in his living room from Monster Inc., like a giant furry monster.
If anybody would like to trade something
I'm sure you would. But it's pretty amazing.
What did you watch, Rob?
I have to get this out so I can write about it on our site as my pick of the week, of course. No, I'll go through these really quick, and obviously, if you guys want to chime in, you can.
They will.
It sucked.
Every October, it's funny because every October we have our set films that we always like to watch. Whether it be like Trick or Treat or Halloween 3, whatever it is. This October, I've been kind of deviating from that and like not watching all the fucking Halloween sequels, and so I'm trying to watch stuff I haven't watched in a while or that I've never seen. And I don't know why. Like, I haven't done any franchise horror, but I was suddenly in the mood to revisit Freddy versus Jason because I haven't seen it. Really
never mind. We don't care what you watch.
No, but I'm really here's the fascinating thing about this movie. Now, I liked it when it came out because it's one of those theatrical experiences that I'll never forget because it came out on my birthday the year that it came out, which was like 2003 or whatever. And I remember the day before, it's like, all I want to do for my birthday is buy up 3 rows with all my friends and go see Freddy versus Jason. Like, we've been waiting our whole lives for this team up. We got to go.
Had you?
You'd have to be a millionaire to do that here in LA.
This is before that. And if you remember back then on the East Coast there was like the giant like blackout that took out like all of New York, Jersey, Connecticut, whatever, the day before.
I do remember that, yeah.
So the next morning I'm just like, oh my God, are they going to show it? Is the theater going to be open? Like, we waited all this time. So my experience seeing it in theaters was always very positive, and because with a bunch of friends, you scream, you go nuts, and enjoying it. But I haven't seen it in a really long time, and I just had the irking to see it. I had Joe Madry come over, who's our expert, or Wes Craven expert, and it was really in context. It definitely doesn't hold up at all. that's number one.
Mike's going to argue with that.
No, he's not.
A stone CGI worm doesn't hold up.
No, but I remember thinking, like, at the time it came out, like, oh, yeah, I guess that's, like, because there were so many rumors for, like, 10 years of how they were going to put them together. And, like, everything I had heard was just sounded awful. Like, Freddy was, at Camp Crystal Lake and he molested Jason. So that's how they're going to put them together or whatever. That's his grudge. Yeah. Or, or Jason's going to be on trial for murder or whatever. Like, there were these crazy concepts of how to make this work. So I remember when it came out thinking, like, oh, okay, so, they forgot about Freddy, so he's going to use Jason to make people scared again or whatever. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. But watching it now, it's like, it's really interesting because it is 2003, so it's post-Scream, but kind of at the tail end of all that cycle. Because we were watching it, trying to analyze it, like, okay, so there's the Jay Muse character, so they probably offered it to Jay's Muse, but he turned it down, so they just got a lookalike guy. There's the Destiny's Child girl or whatever. Like, oh, we have to have some singer who's never been in a movie before be that role. And, like, it's exposition city, like, unbelievable. And we're like, wait a minute. And we realized the reason they explain the franchise as much as they do is because, like, well, it's been, like, 10 years since the last Freddy movie and probably 6 or 7 since the last Jason one. So in context, it'd been so long since there had been either that they kind of like over-explain everything for like newbies coming in, if that makes any sense.
That movie is a textbook example of why filmmakers, studios should not ever listen to fans. You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of thing fans be like, yeah, we want Freddy. Yeah. You go to a convention, it's like, you guys don't know what you don't know what you want. You know what you've liked in the past, but just let the people that know how to make a movie decide what should be written, because that's exactly where that kind of thing
comes from. And in this episode, we already established the common person is an idiot. If they're not into elevated horror.
I wouldn't say that a person at a horror convention is general, but in general, all people are idiots.
Here's a real question. Is it possible to make one of these team-up versus movies good? Is there a good version of one of these Jason, like where the story can actually be integrated?
Alien versus Predator, guys. Come on.
No. I do think somebody could make a good version of that because the world they haven't, and the worlds merge.
Well, remember when Miramax was trying to put Michael Myers against Pinhead
and Bruce Campbell was going to
Leprechaun versus
Candyman. All those stories are great though, because I remember seeing Clive Barker at a convention saying that he did talk to John Carpenter. Like John would have done it just for the money, but they were talking about Michael Myers versus Pinhead, and Clive's like, I was going to write it and John was going to direct it. He's like, and then I met the people involved with the Halloween franchise, and they think Michael Myers is like fucking Hamlet. So I just was it's like whatever.
I mean, Dave Parker technically isn't allowed to talk, but his Candyman Sweet Tooth thing is happening. This is a real project. His anthology part will attack the Candyman, but it gets to a point where you're like, it's fun to like joke about and think about, but when you see it, you're like, no, they're different worlds.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It does work.
That stuff can work in a comic book, but not in a movie.
Or in like an Abbott and Costello sort of
right.
thing.
Abbott and Costello Frankenstein worked, and it was funny because Joe mentioned, Joe wrote the book with Tom McLaughlin about his bio, and he did Friday the 13th 6. And Tom always said, if they do a Freddy versus Jason, it really should be Freddy versus Jason with Cheech and Chong.
Right.
Because then it's like the modern day version of Abbott and Costello, where you have the kind of comedy side, but like you treat the monsters still like monsters, and but
I will imagine this. Imagine watching It Follows, and every time it cuts to what's following, it's the Babadook. That movie would actually be a better movie. Like it would be even every time it cuts, it's just the Babadook going, and you're like, holy shit, it's in the daytime. I think that movie would be fucking rad. The Babadook follows, boom, done.
It Follows versus Babadook next year.
I'm in.
Coming to a theater.
That's a team up movie.
Tarantino's like, well, there's one problem.
The only other thing I really wanted to mention that I remember loving these movies when they came out, and they're still great, and it's just got a Halloween vibe. But I revisited both Addams Family movies from the early 90s.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them in a long time.
They're great, man. I mean, the first one's a lot of fun, and if you look in context, because it came out in like 91. So this was not the time period where every TV show and movie had been rebooted and redone. So it wasn't met with the kind of like, oh, I can't believe so-and-so is playing that person or whatever. Yeah. It was kind of like a cool movie and like, oh, Christopher Lloyd's
and perfect casting all around. I mean, everyone in it perfectly. Well.
I remember with the first Addams Family, it being such a huge thing. I remember going, because I was such a huge Addams Family fan, that I was in 6th grade and my dad dropped us all off at the movie theater, which was a big deal. And so we were there by ourselves to see this movie.
Did he ever come back? Is this the
and then he said he was going out for a pack of smokes and he never came back.
Jared from Subway entered. Hey guys.
But I remember that the theater was so packed that we ended up sitting on the floor at the front. And this is like before Fire Code, when you could still do that.
I remember seeing movies like that.
And so they would keep selling tickets. And so I remember sitting like down in like the opera section of the front, because we had this old theater the next town over that we had to go see it at. And so it was like an old like movie house, and we were sitting like in the front where the opera, technically the orchestra, would have gone. And I remember it being such a huge thing. And I remember everybody singing along with the song and everything. Like it was like a group viewing experience. And that MC Hammer thing, they do what they want to do, say what they want to say. Like people getting really fucking into it. So.
Maybe things were just more fun back then.
No, maybe.
But I was going to say, I remember that in Scrooged, actually, the audience singing during credits and stuff. There was something more. There was something more special about. I mean, I feel like I
think you were just allowed to have fun. It didn't have to be
everything's so sort of serious and pretentious anymore. Even the fun stuff.
Yeah,
and maybe it's just because we see it in LA.
I also think there's such a glut of entertainment now. Like a movie was a really special thing, you know.
Now
I'm only in my 30s, it's not like I'm talking about, but it's like, I mean, even like the Addams Family.
But barely in your 30s, right, Mike? I mean,
barely. But
this is what my parents told me about going to see Casper.
But as much as I like Addams Family, I truly think that Addams Family Values is a masterpiece. Like
the second one?
The second one.
I remember the second one having
I like the second one more.
Because now everybody's
is that
in
the summer
camp.
camp one?
This is the one where they take, and they
Who directed these?
They have Barry Sonnenfeld. They have the new little kid, Pubert. And like, there's like Raul Julia is, God bless him, because he died way too young. But there's some scenes with him in Addams Family Values that are like comedic masterpieces. Like when he's not allowed to see Fester anymore, and he goes to the police station, and it's oh God, who's the guy from the Birdcage? The comedian.
Not
Robin Williams, the other guy.
D, it begins with a D.
Why am I?
And he was the producers on Broadway.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name because he's so famous. But anyway,
Nathan Lane.
It does not begin with a D.
Nathan Lane cameos is like the guy at the police precinct. And he's like, "You must stop my brother immediately. He got married. They make love constantly. They own a Buick." It's like, it's just great. And I really do think that movie's hilarious. And
I like the second one a lot more than the first one because when I saw the first one, I hate when they do that. Even though I really like the movie, but. It's like, I want Uncle Fester to be Uncle Fester.
Exactly.
Was that Chris Lloyd?
Yeah, Chris
Lloyd. It was great. But it's like, that movie is actually what they should have done 3 movies in, not the first movie where...
Yeah, where they're like, is he Fester? Is he not? But that's the thing, because then you feel like you don't have the Addams family.
Right.
But by the second one,
it should be Addams
roles.
family against the town or something, and... Didn't get it.
It's funny that The Monsters was never as translatable to film or TV or anything after the original series. I always thought that was the more popular show.
Brian
Fuller did the 13 Mockingbird Lane, and it just didn't gel. I mean, what was that on Cinemax? It ran.
I loved that show so much when I was a kid.
It was an NBC show.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was a pilot.
Okay.
They just aired the pilot. That was it.
I knew it functioned as like a made-for-TV movie.
Go back and watch. His wife is so sexy in that. Like, you don't think about it as a kid, but the vampire character kind of like...
In the Mockingbird Lane?
No, the Frankenstein, the original Monsters. Like, go back as a kid, I didn't realize that's why. But she's just like, she's really got it going on.
I realized it.
And I realized you were realizing it.
Because we haven't agreed on the name for the currently unborn child that I'm carrying right now. But because, Marnie's now the older sister and it's going to be the younger brother, I've been calling it Pugsley. So, like, when I addressed it to, like, my parents and everything, I'm like, Pugsley's doing good. Or I went to the doctor and we took a look at Pugsley today. So when I was home 2 weeks ago, I was talking about it and I was like, well, we went shopping. We got Pugsley some like onesies and stuff. And as soon as I leave the room, I hear our neighbor go, she's not really naming it Pugsley, is she? So now I think I need to.
And speaking of, our viewers or listeners can't see, but it's awesome that, your girl power, you're just drinking vodka and smoking.
Oh my God. I did so much meth in the bathroom
and there's been like moments of masturbation. It's fucking weird. It's like she's just all in. It's like push all the chips for the taboos.
I'm slamming H after the show, guys. Come on.
No, man.
I'm impressed, Bekah. Finally, you pulled out the good shit.
I'm really hardcore. You did
but
not mention that I made a Motorhead shirt maternity. I had to put an insert in the back, but I was like, I really have to do this with my concert T-shirts, so I can keep wearing them throughout the whole pregnancy.
Well, I want to dive into our Halloween conversation, but before we start talking about that kind of stuff, I kind of want to bring people up to speed on what Mike's been up to, and obviously this is Shane's first time on the show. It's funny because we know I know Shane from like horror trivia and kind of events around town, and that's what happens is you bump into people, you start talking, you have common interests, and talk about records and stuff like that. But I don't really know Shane's story. In terms
I don't know Shane's story.
He started in Indiana on a fall night.
Well, the one thing that kind of always defines us, let's ask you first kind of your earliest horror recollections, because all of us obviously are horror nerds. There were movies that we saw that kind of shaped us or that made us, who we are. So what was it that turned you on to the genre when you were a kid?
Well, we always had birthday parties and such around Halloween. So it was like my grandma's birthday and this. So they always kind of combined a little everything because when family would come over, and that was always just such a cool time. Mm-hmm. And of course, trick-or-treating and all that stuff. But we would trick-or-treat for at least a week back there. Officially, we could do
good
it.
Old days.
Yeah, officially we could do it 2 nights. But we would go to this neighborhood. Like my mom would call them up, and I didn't know till years later she was badgering him. Turn your lights on. We're dressing up the kids and coming by. So we would do this all week long, and we had a horror host back in Indiana named Sammy Terry, who I don't care what you say about Zachary. Sammy Terry was the best horror host of all time. Yeah, very very underrated. And he went for actual scares, not just the corny stuff. So my mom was a horror fan, but not, obsessed. I mean, she didn't go to the movies and stuff like that. I just would watch it on TV and whatnot. And Sammy Terry was on every Friday night, and that just scared the shit out of me every Friday night. But she would talk about all of this stuff, and I guess martial arts movies too, because we had Chopsaki Theater on Saturday. But it was just sort of kind of all of that stuff. It was family. It was, on TV. It was this and that and all the other. And the first one I remember seeing was Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
As like an actual horror thing. But I also grew up kind of at the tail end of the Monster Kid scene. Mm-hmm. So we had all of the Aurora kits. That was everywhere. So the Frankenstein toys and Dracula and everything. So everywhere you went, that stuff was there, and the Jigglers. And I just loved it.
What's a Jiggler?
They were like little rubber toys that you would go get.
Oh, shit. I had some of those. I just never heard them called that.
Yeah, they were the Hustler store.
Yeah, the Hustler store.
The rubber things. Okay, yeah.
Russ Meyer movies.
Yeah, the 12-inch jiggler, French jiggler.
Okay. Yeah.
But, every time we go out, it's like, beg for this, beg for that, and whatever. And it was, the start of Kiss, and it was all of that cool stuff.
How old were you for the Night of the Living Dead, you think?
Probably 5, 6.
And so your memory's like terrifying?
Yeah, it was absolutely terrifying. I mean, from the start.
Wouldn't you pay to have that again? I'd pay someone money to scare me with a movie so bad.
That's the thing, the people that we know, they try so hard to get their kids into horror. And I think horror has to happen.
You have to discover it.
You just have to discover it.
Man, it's the best feeling in the world. I mean, not at the time. It's terrifying.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying. But also parents are pussies now where they shield them from everything. Like, I mean, movies were scary when we were kids, and now they're
not the kids from last week. Did you hear that episode?
Yeah. But I mean, like Willy Wonka was terrifying.
Oh my God,
Wizard of Oz was terrifying. And we had that stuff. The first movie I saw, well, also I grew up.
The fucking Snow White. Yeah, the cartoon. I remember your kid running out of the room when the witch came in.
My parents had to leave the theater. That's the first movie I was ever taken to see in the theater. And when the rain at the end, where they're trying to pry the stone off so that it crushes the witch, my mom had to leave.
Yeah, Disney Fantasia is scary. I mean, it's an atmosphere of unknown.
They don't even
it's not a safe
anything
place
like that anymore.
No.
The first movie that I saw in a theater was Grizzly. I was 5 years old.
Bill Gerber.
Like my parents had no business taking me to see Grizzly. It's just that they didn't want to get a babysitter, and they'll go see anything with a bear in it or whatever. So
specific parents.
Yeah. So if you want my parents to watch your movie, put a bear in there. Right. But
into the red maze or whatever it's called.
It was absolutely terrifying, and I remember vividly turning around in my seat and watching the projector. And when you kind of see the light turned red, I knew somebody was getting killed or something, and it was just, but it's traumatized, but I loved it.
Yeah.
So it just kind of kept going. And I also grew up on the other side of the fence from a drive-in.
Oh, cool.
So we would sit on our roof and watch movies at the drive-in.
Yeah, that's great.
So...
Like, do you remember any others that actually gave you actual nightmares? Like seeing a movie young where you had these repeatable nightmares or being scared of the dark. It's something I think people don't understand that now. When Sean Keller talks about showing his son all the horror, and then we see his son talk on our show, he seems so confident and not scared of it. But for me, discovering it illegally, it's actually a negative thing when you're young.
It really is.
It's not good. It's bad as a kid because it fucking I was scared of the dark. Yeah. I didn't like dreams. I didn't, but then now as an adult, it's shaped who you are. Yeah. And so you look back positively. I'm going to shield my kids as long as I can from horror. Until they say, I want to see that, Daddy. I'm literally keeping them as innocent as I can. And then if they want to see it, they'll find it,
Yeah, to your kids, because Marnie does this.
I show them porn, but just not horror.
Do your kids say, this scares me?
Yeah, I mean, Dash is really upfront. He'll get too scary, Daddy. I mean, he just doesn't like anything. He's scared of everything.
I have this talking demon head that's sitting on the porch right now, which I think is hilarious. You walk up to the door and it goes, hey, you there. Who are you? Why are you here? And it's hilarious. And Marnie kept going, too scary, make it not talk. And then I turned it off and she goes, demon's nice now.
Marnie's definitely tougher. I mean, Marnie's younger, but she's been growing up around more horror stuff. And she likes Scooby-Doo. My son won't even watch Scooby-Doo because he's too scared. And I'm like, but Marnie's younger than you. She loves Scooby-Doo. You want to watch Scooby-Doo? And he's like, no, too scared. One day, Daddy, when I'm your age. When I'm 28, like you, Daddy.
What about with you, Mike? Because you have a lot of film prints of some of these early Disney movies, and I know you screened screen a lot of stuff for your children who are very young.
Yeah.
How did they react to some of the stuff? I mean, do they get scared by some of the Disney stuff?
Yeah. Oh, Elric came over, and I do
Snow White.
have a Technicolor print of Snow White.
Fucking gorgeous movie on film. Really,
he left.
perfect.
He
walked out in
was
about
very
5 minutes. He knew he was done.
Yeah, he's very scared by anything with even like a villain. Like if there's a villain in the movie, it upsets him. So he's biologically tailor-made for what is sort of made now. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Jake and the Neverland Pirates, that kind of stuff.
And yet it's unpredictable because Dash watched it, and then Dash wouldn't go to Inside Out because he saw the little red character, and he's like, "Oh no, it's scary. I don't even want to see that movie." And your Dylan went to it and loved it.
He did love it, but he was terrified by the clown in it. I mean, and there's like he saw it, and the clown scene. Got up out of his chair and was like left. 5-4-year-old. So yeah, I mean,
I really think that's the age. It's 4 to like 7. Before you're able to look after yourself and understand things. If you see stuff, not even whole things, just images, or masks, you keep thinking about it. And you don't know what it is, and unless it's a parent, they're telling you what it is.
Snow White was the second movie I saw in a theater because it was during that re-release, so it was like Grizzly and then Snow White, so there was no hope for me after that.
I know David Lynch was another one who always talked about Snow White, like seeing it young and just fucking his brain. I mean, it's just got so many things. And so 1932 or something.
Wasn't it? It was like that golden age of horror.
And yet the storytelling hasn't aged at all.
It was 39 because that was like Gone with the Wind and
it probably is around
looking
then.
this up. We're all full of shit.
I was going to say it's like 41 or 42.
Could be, it could actually. That's probably that sounds more realistic. But either way, it's just like amazing when some of those movies have an animation more than your average movie. It can look like it just hasn't aged. If anything, you miss that style. We've gone too far with a lot of techniques and
that would
and
be
the speed.
1937.
Okay. Happy
like I said, 1937.
We were in the decade.
Edit that out.
And Shane, I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of getting into the whole writing thing. Like, was that always kind of the thing in filmmaking that you wanted to kind of approach, or was that kind of an accident?
It was a total accident. I had no desire really to do it. It was just I moved out here. I started out kind of as an artist when I was in high school, and I won scholarships and this and that and all the other, but didn't want to go to art school because I didn't want to hang out with those people. That sounds horrible. It sounds really horrible. But I went and looked at a couple schools of like, that's not for me. But when I moved out here, I was doing distribution, and I'm not a salesman. It was international distribution. So I just like, this is just so not for me. But the only thing I could really afford to do was write. I was an intern, wasn't making any money, couldn't afford to eat. We had 7 guys living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And it's like, writing is the only thing I can do that's free. And I optioned a comic book from some people that became friends. And it was just like, oh, I guess I can maybe kind of string a couple words together, even though looking back on it now, like that script is really, really horrible. I mean, it's horrible from start to finish, but I was so proud and slapped myself on the back. It's like, this is awesome. But I got really big meetings from it. And just being at the distribution company, we started producing also. And I was trying very guerrilla-like to turn it into a horror boutique. And it didn't. We did some stuff, but I always ended up having to write anyway, and it's just kind of kept going, and then finally had something produced.
How'd you meet Charlie? How'd you even get in any world with, like, say, Charlie Band? How does he find you guys?
Well,
my first job in LA was at Full Moon.
Really?
Was it really?
I've had so many people who have that exact same.
I just want to, on record, I don't just do Charlie Band.
No, obviously.
Well, no, because
we've had Dave Parker was here too, so people don't have to defend it.
What was funny was
I love Charlie. But.
I bought one of I can't remember which one it was. Is it Axis of Evil, the Puppet Master movie Axis of Evil, where your name pops up as the writer, and I was like, oh, Shane Roman's Puppet Master.
Axis Rising.
Axis Rising.
Puppet Master X.
Yes.
Axis Rising.
And I asked you, I was like, oh, it's so cool you wrote the new Puppet Master. And you're like, well, I wrote a lot of Full Moon stuff. I just don't actually use my name on them. And I was like, oh, you have a pseudonym for a lot of the other ones.
Well, I thought that this one Yeah. There's just no money. There's no money. I mean, it's nobody's fault, but there's no money, no time. The people always say, "Oh, I'm such a Full Moon fan." Like, no, you're a Full Moon fan from their movies 20 years ago.
The Paramount days.
Yeah, you didn't even know that they existed anymore. And it's just, there's no money. And they're not shooting in castles. They're shooting in one room. And it's just not the same.
But how did you meet him? I'm curious how you actually met him.
I actually met Charlie. I mean, everybody I know has worked for Charlie. Parker, and I've known him for 15 years. And Courtney Joyner, who's one of my best friends, known him for like 19, 18 years. And he wrote back in the heyday. I mean, it was Mordred and Puppet Master 3, which is the best of all of them by far, and Lurking Fear and all that stuff. But, they would shoot stuff, and I'd go on set just to snoop around and whatever. But a friend of mine, Brian Muir, who wrote Critters, wrote some stuff for Charlie. And Brian was my absolute best friend, and he died. And I had a memorial for him, the Brian Muir Memorial. And,
Sorry, we shouldn't laugh.
No, it was fun. I mean, it's like, this is going to be a drunk fest. If anybody knows any strippers that are very cheap, but don't look cheap, let us know.
Don't like coming to a funeral.
yeah. So, we did that. And one of the guys that, shot all the movies goes, Charlie's going to ask you if you want to rewrite this stuff. And I'm like, okay. So it just ended up, like, I kind of rewrote a couple of his scripts because he couldn't do it. But that was one of the things that he always was like, hey, I wrote Evil Bong 3 with a brain tumor. And I'm like, okay. He goes, can you tell? No, you can't tell at all. But it was just stuff like that. And then there's another guy, Kent, that writes, so much of the stuff. But we all know each other and call each other up and bounce stuff off. And it's like, hey, is this really stupid? Yeah, that's really stupid. Use it. So,
Shane, sidebar, you have a really great radio voice.
You do.
I do not. I do. My voice
I'm entranced.
I like Final Girls more than my voice.
Everyone likes their voice.
I have a good radio face.
I've told Rob I can't listen to our episodes because I'm like, stop talking like that, Bekah. And I have problems. So we all do.
And Mike, since last week we had you on, you went and made this film Deathly, which I watched and I thought was really awesome.
It's good.
Oh, good. And I like it because it's so funny. Like, you have this aesthetic. Like, it's like Elric talked about it a few weeks ago, how it had kind of a Tales from the Crypt kind of vibe, like
with a little bit of Hitchcock.
With a little bit of Hitchcock.
In terms of the shots.
But I've been reading like creepy magazines and stuff like that, just because I'm getting into the kind of holiday spirit. But I feel like that's inherent in. That's what fits in with Halloween. Is because every year you deck out all the decorations in your place. It's like Halloween has been a big thing for you, and to me, it's like that's so tied into it, like that kind of storytelling. So I don't know when did that start, the whole Halloween thing? Were we always obsessed with it? And I mean, now that you have a family and a house and everything, you can kind of go all out in terms of decorations and making it a big deal.
Yeah, I was, I always, even when I was a kid, like in junior high, I was, my buddy Brian Walters, who was my horror movie guy, my Halloween guy, my best friend, we would turn his parents' garage into a haunted house every year for Halloween, just like when we were in junior high through high school. Wow. And we would even like decorate it, make it go into his mom's house. Like, people would go in through the house. And it's always been, I think it was probably an extension of loving horror movies so much. Halloween is different things to different people, but it's sort of like when you're able to sort of live in a horror movie kind of, you know, for a day, and you see creatures walking the streets and things like that. And I think it was my desire less to make a haunted house and more to be a filmmaker, but to make a horror movie, it's your way of like making someone see something that you want them to see, you know? But yeah, it was always. I mean, I trick or treated through college. I was that guy.
The truth is, he only had kids. So, trick or treat.
And the reason when we were talking this week about people that we could bring on who were really passionate about Halloween, I remembered on Sunday at Marnie's party, we were talking about Halloween decorations, and Mike told this story about how his son told him that his house wasn't the scariest in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and he's doing it to antagonize me because he knows it's important to me that the yard like be moody, and he
has that.
We'll go around, like go on a walk or whatever. He's still saying it. Like every day I hear from him, he goes, yeah, our house isn't the spookiest on the street. Sorry, Dad.
How old is your son, just so people know?
He's 4.5.
4. And he already owns
and so I literally an hour ago, he said, because we drove by on our street, they have like, there's another house with 2 big red eyes and teeth. It's like a monster house. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, that's scarier than our house, Dad. I was like, Dylan, you wait on Halloween night when I've got all the fun.
Because I don't the fucking shit out of you.
I don't let it go. I don't unleash it fully until Halloween night. You know?
Which I respect that. I think you got to hold something back.
Yeah. Dylan's going to be telling this all to like a psychologist.
He's so scared.
Dad used to hold me down and make me say our house was the scariest.
But it's funny that even he can pick up on how much it means to me. Even my neighbor, I have an elderly man across the street who sees me like decorating, and he's like, do you need any help? You shouldn't have worked as hard on
this doesn't seem at the level of some of the other I was talking to your son.
Well, that's the thing. It drives me crazy because I live down in Culver City.
Yeah.
And I am the only one. You can drive around every street for hours, and I am the only one who decorates.
Well, especially year round. Your house is like that year round.
Well, it's funny. My wife, her coworker came over a few years ago and she goes like, oh my God, I love how you guys decorate for Halloween. It was like March. I don't even have the Halloween stuff up yet.
Yeah. I live in Burbank, and Burbank is great with decorating. Yeah. The city has like
Culver City duds
decorating contests, and there's a couple great home haunts.
Oh, they're great.
That I go to every year. There's Rotten Apple, which is really great, and Backwoods Maze, which is also really good. That are both in Burbank. They're free. They're at people's houses. They build them at their houses, and they're quite extensive. It's not like
they're
some rinky
better than a lot of like Universal Horror Nights and stuff like that. Sometimes I mean, it's not.
Have you ever done the Pasadena area? Because people keep telling, I'm tempted to go out this year. People keep saying there's an area that's just unbelievable.
No, I haven't gone up there.
Yeah, I'd like to check that out too. Also, Boney Island, which is over in.
I did that tonight.
Marnie and I are doing that tomorrow night.
And all that, around there. It's just.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Boney Island is, I guess it's a Simpsons animator who owns that house, and he decks out his front yard with a bunch of animatronic skeletons that sing and dance and do magic tricks, and there's a really big sort of miniature, but a miniature Vegas-style water show in front that has Halloween songs. There, pumpkins are lighting up, and there's a magician skeleton that's like the conductor of the orchestra, and colored lights. It's really quite phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's kid-friendly, so...
Yeah. It feels very Disney. It feels very Disney, but it's awesome how people devote so much time and energy to something that's nonprofit and is just sort of for the love of the holiday.
Where do you think that comes from in people? Like, and I think, I wonder if it's early repression and like having to live within a moral code of what America was founded on and principles, but deep down we want to do this thing.
Because I always think that even if I didn't live in Los Angeles, if I was forced to go teach, I assume I'd still be doing something arty. So I'll say I'm an English teacher in like 8th grade in the middle of nowhere, Virginia. I think that this is what I would do. This would be like my time. Like I'm going to make a haunt in my front yard because I don't have this the rest of the year.
I think there's a couple ways that people come about it. I think one is biological, just like you like cheese or something. I think that
I've seen you demolish some cheese. As a vegetarian, you demolish the cheese.
Yeah, I think there's just something. It's just sort of like something it's just a worldview that you have biologically. You're attracted to certain things and you see things a certain way. And then I think there are people that develop the aesthetic through whatever reason, But childhood, for me, it's for me, it's kind of both, actually. I mean, it's biological. I was attracted to dark. I mean, I remember watching Return of the Jedi and thinking Darth Vader was way more interesting than Luke Skywalker. I remember seeing Goonies and thinking the title was so awesome because the skull over the eye, you know, stuff like that. And then, not to get too dark, but my dad died when I was 10. So then you start thinking about, you know, then it becomes like a more intellectual kind of thing. Like, what do these things mean? Right. As opposed to just like liking it because it, you know, some sort of spark in your brain. So I think there's definitely two ways you can come at horror, but it's probably 50-50. I think biological and some of it's learned.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too. And my dad, all of his they were in a gun club and all this stuff, but they all worked at this funeral home. So every day we were at the funeral home, and so he could talk about guns or hunting or shooting or whatever. And I got nothing to do, so I'm running around the funeral home, test driving coffins, and that stuff was normal to me. And
the amount of people we've had who are associated with funeral homes or having ministers as fathers on this show is actually astronomical.
I mean, I almost
like you guys
went into it.
Yeah, my mom was a funeral director for years, and so I grew up like test driving the coffins. Yeah. I remember that when they'd get new coffins in, I'd lay in them and be like, "This one's really not as comfortable as the Cardinal," and things like that. Yeah, and like knowing what the bone crusher was. The bone crusher being like they would run people through the crematory, and then what you get back is like a pile of rubble, and then you would put it in the bone crusher.
No, the bone crusher is the damn Yankees song and Nothing But Trouble.
Oh, you're right. You take me high enough, Mike.
Were you guys scared of real things? I always remember when Landis released that book on monsters. I remember one thing he said about it when he put it out. He was talking about his wife, how his wife, she can't watch anything about anything real, like a serial killer, she just can't watch it because it's just real. But any monster doesn't scare her at all. And I'm the complete opposite as a kid. Like you could have told me the next door neighbor was a serial killer, wouldn't scare me. Dark wouldn't scare me. An idea of a monster scared, like a devil or a monster or a werewolf, like I just would always be scared of that. And so it was of the things that didn't actually exist, the things we didn't know about in the dark was scared me. And still to this day, I'm not that scared of the Jared Chalmers. It disturbs me that they exist, but I'm not like sitting there worrying. But the idea that ghosts could still be real, that's actually, that's kind of spooky to me. But as kids, were you guys like, was it the real stuff that spooked you out? Was it the supernatural stuff? I think there's such a difference in horror. Some people, you skew either way kind of dramatically sometimes. Like I know Rob doesn't like Home Invasion.
Yeah, no, I like the fantastic elements. We grew up in the 80s. Like all those movies were just so vibrant with colors and kind of like ghosts and zombies.
Yeah, but you say you
stuff.
Like it, but he's asking
I'm asking like, did it scare you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, some of it when I was a kid, none of it scares me now. But no, the kind of things I fear now are definitely like real horrors. Like,
supernatural stuff always actually scared me more. I think it's the element like for me, something I can't control. You know what I mean? Like I hate flying because I'm so not in control. If like the strangers are knocking on my door, I feel like there's something I can do.
Yeah, you have a chance. You might work it out,
but
right?
But if there's some ghost, I'm like done because I have no idea how to fight a ghost. You know what I mean? So that stuff has always scared me more. That lack of
Do you
control.
remember the last movie that actually scared you in cinema? Like in the recent modern times where you go, I'm actually a little unnerved afterwards, or has it been since you were a kid?
No, you know what? I scare easy.
I watch something that doesn't affect me then, but then on the way home, I start thinking about it. And by the time I am home, I'm totally freaked out. And I have to go do that, turn on the light down here so I can turn the one off back here, and I make my way to the bedroom.
I'm telling you, I think we're all the fucking same. I think all these guys who are like, and girls and people like us who are like adult horror people, deep down are just the kid who just was scarred at some point and loved it ever since. That's our way of owning it, is loving it, but we're still scared.
I have said in so many interviews that as soon as horror movies stop scaring me, I need to find a new line of work because it's why I love them. If I'm not even a little jolted by the movie, then it's kind of like, oh, what was the point of that?
But do you remember a specific? Because I actually do, and it's kind of funny to me. The last one I saw that actually, like after I finished, I was alone in a room, and I was actually really creeped out. Was Paranormal 2. The second one with all the surveillance cameras.
Are you serious?
And in a house, I think I wouldn't have found that scary in a theater. In a theater, I'm never scared of those kind of movies. I might jump, But in a house alone, that's what that movie's about.
Yeah.
It's about being watched, and it's about something creepy happening. I remember being really unnerved and like having to kind of go outside for a while during the middle of the day. So I'm just curious.
I couldn't even say. I mean, literally, I would have to say every movie that I see because I'm a real. I allow myself. I think there's like horror junkies that like I don't know. They allow themselves to get numb to it, and it's just like a process.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
But I'm not like I allow myself to sit down just with a clean slate with everything, and I saw Ghost Dimension, and
oh really, sir?
I didn't really particularly like the movie, but there was
Most didn't.
But I let myself jump a couple times. You know what I mean? It's
that means the scariest movie you've seen recently is Jin.
We're waiting for that.
We are going to talk about Jin.
I'm so sad I didn't watch it before this.
But I'm going to wait because I also want to hear if you remember. Do you remember the last film that you saw that actually kind of unnerved you?
It Follows actually did, and I saw it up in Hollywood, and then driving back to Culver City, I saw it with Dick Grunert, and we were kind of joking about it afterwards. There's guys walking in the parking lot. I'm like, oh, there's It Follows. That guy.
Yeah.
And then there I am driving home, and I'm seeing everybody walk down the street, and then I get like a mile down the road, and I look in my rearview mirror, and it looks like the same exact guy, even though it's not the same exact guy. But I was like,
it's
Jesus
just Dick
Christ.
running after you going, it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
So I get home, and I was just like, oh. But and before that, I know there were a few others, but The Strangers really bugged me. And before that, it was Ringu.
Yeah.
I don't know who gave me that.
The Japanese one, when it first came out.
I got a videotape in the mail, and I have no idea to this day.
That's so good.
And I watched it alone. My wife was in somewhere, San Jose or something, working. And I mean, that's the testament of a great movie when you're kind of sitting back, slouched on your couch, and then when the thing's over, you're just in this tight little ball in the corner of your couch. And it's that one really, really got me.
Imagine if Audition had come out right when Tinder had started. It would be fucked up. Because Audition scared the shit. I remember knowing nothing. And the first half, you're like, oh, this is cool. It's about a director. Oh, he's going to cast to get laid.
That was one of my favorite movie
good.
experiences because we saw it. They had an art house at the mall down by us, and we went there, and they had a thing. There will absolutely be no refunds after 30 minutes. And this is a mall walker mall, so it's all old people in there. And we went to the movies, probably 50, 60 other people in there, all over 60, 70 years old. And when it got, when the lights came up at the end, we were the only ones left. Everybody was gone.
Wow.
And so we walked out.
It just takes you by surprise.
There was a line of people demanding their money back, and they were like, after 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put up on Blumhouse this week, I put 10 super scary films that you may not have heard of. They were just kind of like not even lesser known ones, but just ones that people don't immediately point to. And every single one on that list are ones that like left me shaking for days. Like Rec 1 and Rec 2 I put on there. Just because those were ones where I was like, oh, cool, it's a zombie film, let's watch. And then like 10 minutes in, I'm like, holy shit, this is serious. One that has been really polarizing is Event Horizon, which I actually got in a discussion with Jared and Darren Scott at a bar after trivia last Thursday because somebody proposed the question, what is like one of the scariest movies that you've ever seen that's like left you shaken? And I immediately was like, Event Horizon. And they were like, seriously, man? It's like silly. And I was like, I don't know what it is, but I think that there's a small generation of us who saw that not knowing what it was, not knowing what to expect, because it was billed as like a total sci-fi film. And then seeing it kind of, it affected.
It didn't scare me, but I loved it. But then the one thing that it failed, it had a couple like silly things that broke the tone, right? Like had the black guy on the little spaceship flying off. Hey, motherfucker! That kind of those scenes that movies in the 90s always had.
In the 90s, we had to have a say motherfucker moment.
But if you took that out, but no, there's some of the imagery is definitely graphic and intense for that kind of movie, and for sci-fi, literally, it's about going to hell.
It kind of has a Hellraiser.
Yeah, it's a Hellraiser.
Everyone called it Hellraiser in space.
Hellraiser actually was probably the first movie that really scared me because I was raised by strict Catholic parents or mother, and so I had to sneak all of my horror stuff. And that was when I remember very vividly them being in the living room and me going in their bedroom and watching that on HBO and seeing like the thing crawling on the ground and be like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't be watching this.
It's one of the most adult horror films ever made. Still, it's just the themes are just so intense. And
well, I remember being at a slumber party when I was in middle school, and I don't know, we all, this is going to sound horrible, we like dared each other to sit through this movie, and we handcuffed ourselves to each other on the couch.
Oh, wow. To Hellraiser?
It wasn't Hellraiser, but we watched The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
And they were all laughing, like, and I was sitting there going, heh, heh, heh. It terrified me. And to this day, it's not the devil stuff. It's not it's everything with the mother.
Yeah.
Her going down the subway thing, or her, and I know every time I go in and turn on the light into the bedroom, she's going to be sitting on the edge of the bed, and that like old women scare me.
Exorcist is probably a great example of the movie that has both of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
like it has the if you're scared of supernatural stuff, you have it. If you're scared of real stuff, I mean, just the stuff with a mother with a sick daughter is very unsettling. And so it does sort of serve both.
Even if it was psychosomatic, even if she's not possessed, it would still be terrifying because she thinks she's possessed, right?
Exactly.
Even if that's what the
it's
story
one of those movies that I've bought on every single format known to man, and I never watch it, but I always buy it.
I was the same up until literally the last month. Like, I've seen it like 3 or 4 times in my whole life, but literally last month I got obsessed and I watched all the documentaries and stuff, and I really do love and appreciate it for the great movie that it is.
But people now think it's a joke.
No, it's not. That movie
it's still super effective. It's still super effective.
I will say, we do have an article going up. It will be the same day that this airs, which is from William Bibbiani, who I love his writing, but it's why Exorcist 3 is a more effective, scary movie than the original Exorcist.
I love Exorcist.
I think it's more fun. Maybe more fun.
I do not agree at all.
I think Exorcist 3 is so much fun and it's a cool movie, but I think Exorcist 3 is grounded. Exorcist is grounded in the real world. Exorcist 3 isn't. It's a cop procedural.
But let's talk about, because you did mention how people sort of find it funny. I remember going to see the re-release, the version you've never seen, which I have a 16mm print of.
I love
but seeing it at the Chinese and being shocked at how the audience was laughing at
people
the
laughed too.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was fucking
like
scary
opening
when I
night.
saw it.
Maybe opening weekend, probably.
Because I was there opening night, and you would have thought you were seeing The Naked Gun.
Yeah.
I mean, they were
Weird.
they were howling in there, and there was a guy sitting 2 rows up from us. We were kind of towards the front, and it was packed. He was cracking jokes nonstop, and his girlfriend was sitting here, and he was louder than everybody else, and everybody else was loud. And finally, 4 or 5 guys ganged up on him. Like, you shut the fuck up. This guy stood up. He was so pissed off, and that was like the first kind of entitled experience, that I've witnessed in a movie theater, and now it's.
You guys realize that was the repossession screening, right?
It was meant to be funny.
I have a worksheet of that.
I think
but you know what, now
repossession's
that
good.
I think about what it might be, though, is it's something that theatrical audiences don't really get now. I mean, I guess they do with Fathom events, whatever, but it's never really a serious movie. It goes, is there, as a general audience, exposed to a movie in a first-run house that's like 30 or 40 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe they're laughing at the antiquity.
But they've also seen spoofs of it.
No, because
they've already seen comedy versions of this thing.
when I saw this, and this was the re-release cut you've never seen, I was still in college at the time, and we showed it. I used to work at the theater in college, and I remember watching it from the projection booth at the Lyric Theater in Blacksburg, Virginia. And I mean, this is an art theater, but we're watching Exorcist with a group of college students, and everyone laughed the entire way through except for the spider walk sequence where everybody got creeped out.
Which was the only thing of
is like,
significance that was put
that
in.
was weird.
And also
I
those black frames where the face would appear, a Pazuzu.
His face would appear on like the
those things terrify
stove
me.
register.
Those
or
little
whatever.
quick flash inserts, I was like, oh, fuck. And I saw that later.
Even when it came out, according to the making of documentaries, like Friedkin said, like, people laughed back when it originally came out because it's kind of a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Like they just don't know how to react, so they just laugh because they want to hide the
That
fact
I
that
could get. But
actually
like
scared.
full of knee slapping howls is I was
That is a
beyond
little
me.
weird.
It's like, yeah, okay, we get it. The guy has fucking bell-bottom pants.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that funny.
One of the flat-out best Q&As I've ever seen besides Mike Williamson against William Friedkin. That'll be another story. Was actually William Friedkin with Tobe Hooper when they reshowed Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah. It was a really fucking just a great Q&A.
Were they talking about gin?
No. He actually never
they were talking about gin.
But the way, like the main part of the story that I had never even heard of was how Friedkin had basically championed Texas Chainsaw and had called him up in Texas and said, I want to bring out this film. I'm going to invite you out, show you places, and
introduce you to everybody.
And what I really want, and I know, and Mike's obviously is a big Toby fan, but I actually want to ask you, because I never asked you this, you grew up in Texas. When was the first time you were aware of that film? Not even seen it, but aware of the myth of what that film was to the state of Texas.
Well,
we're trying Chainsaw now, right?
Texas Chainsaw, yeah.
I don't know.
You grew up in Austin, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Austin. I'm not sure that I could pinpoint. It's sort of just something it's there like McDonald's is there. And
they hand you a copy when you're born.
But I didn't see it until I think high school, and it was a revival screening at the Dolby Theater, R.I.P., where I had my first date with my wife. It was...
Wait, so you're to blame. Jump cut, R.I.P. Yeah. He didn't replace you whole screenings.
Yeah, but, Toby... Actually, that movie was around, and Toby was around. I worked at a video store, and I would rent videos to Toby because he still had a house
We
there.
have a theory that we've been working on here that everyone who's now like a horror aficionado or like a film nerd, video store or movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Both. Here.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, both.
But I mean, I
actually rented movies to Tobe Hooper also.
Oh, really?
Get out of here.
Here in LA.
Wait, which video store did you work at here?
There was one up on Beverly Glen. There's a little shopping center up there. And I would go up there to, it would get me out of the house and it would get him out of the store. It was a guy that I knew. So Tobe Hooper would show up with Amanda Plummer every once in a while.
Yeah, they used to date.
Oh, really?
They rented Dreadnought one time. So I don't know why I was like, Dreadnought.
Well, she was in an apartment complex, I think. Wasn't she?
That's a weird couple.
Yeah, it is.
She came in, she was wearing chainmail and had a spatula one time.
God bless Los Angeles.
Going on.
But yeah, Chainsaw Massacre in Austin specifically is, it's like, it's just a cultural, it's a piece of history. It's a huge part of the culture there. It's revered as like the Texas movie kind of.
Why do you think the McConaughey version is the most popular there now?
Want to hear a story about that?
I guess.
I went to
even he doesn't want to hear it.
At the Paramount Theater, which is it's a theater where they have plays and stuff like that, but they would screen revival movies. They had the world premiere screening of what was then called The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Kim Henkel was there to do a Q&A, and so I saw it. Probably this was a couple of years before it ended up getting released. And I thought it was fine. You know what I mean? It's like a goofy thing. And after the movie, Kim Henkel comes up and he says, I'm sorry to say, but they didn't, I can't remember if it was they didn't play it or they mixed up two of the reels. So it either played two reels out of order or it was straight up missing like 20 minutes. And I hadn't even noticed. And someone raised their hand in the Q&A at the world premiere and goes, would the movie have made any sense then?
I read that article recently where McConaughey says he didn't even remember being in one. Which I just find hilarious because you're from Texas. There's no way you don't know.
Well, I know. He did a skit on one of these like late night shows and he actually gets it wrong. He's like, I was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. And he makes a joke about it. It's like,
he thinks he's Viggo Mortensen. He's like, I'm pretty sure I'm that Viggo guy. I look kind of like him. But like, so do you remember it having a big impact though, when you did finally see it?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first time I saw it in the theater, is one of the most profound cinematic experiences of my life. I sort of stumbled out of that movie. It was I was very familiar with the title and the poster for years, but I was not prepared for the level of that movie would rattle me. And I remember just literally stumbling out of there, probably with my friend Brian Walters, who was my buddy. And just being like, holy shit, I was not expecting to be like to my core affected by that movie, disturbed, and just, I mean, I felt like that had happened to me. It was that intense,
because of Franklin's raspberries.
So,
I felt that way even watching it last year with
when
you.
we saw it with that Q&A.
I'm like, it might be the only one that just hasn't dated at all.
there's
Like, even though
something-
it dates,
everything's
everything's so
clothes and hair, but
visceral.
not the
It's
actual
so
movie
visceral.
itself.
And that DCP, even though it was a DCP, that one was DCP. There was a couple things in I'd never seen
noticed
before.
before,
I think when Franklin's killed, the blood.
blood.
In
You
the
wanna hear a little
dark,
story
I'd
about
never
that?
noticed that
You wanna hear
before.
a little story about
Yeah.
that? So Toby has a son, William Hooper, who I met when I had also first moved to LA because I knew Toby. And
Was that through Masters of Horror that you knew?
no, it was from renting videos to in Austin.
Okay. So you remember it.
And William, I literally haven't talked to him in, over a decade. I don't know what he's up to, but I would talk to him on the phone. And first of all, he looks exactly like his dad, and he sounds exactly like his dad. It's like weird. But I was trying to figure out how old he was, and he said, "Well, let me tell you this. I was on the set of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, flipping blood at Leatherface when he was killing Franklin." So that's Toby Hooper's son with like fake blood on a spoon, throwing it at.
Interesting.
Wow.
And yeah,
Well, that Q&A was when I hadn't heard that story. I'm sure you guys have all heard it on the extras, but where he talked about the inspiration, where he's in the mall on Christmas Eve, I think it was, and he's trapped, and there's people everywhere, and he doesn't like people, and he just sees this giant chainsaw, and he's like, "What if I took that chainsaw and just like wielded my way all the way through and just buzzed it?" And I don't know. I just thought it was like he seems like a guy who doesn't necessarily like to be in public and speaking anymore, and doesn't like to be asked questions or remember things. but Friedkin did such a good job opening him up.
Yeah,
Friedkin's just so alive right now.
Obviously, it seemed like they had a history, so that was a big.
And that was a really
here.
great Q&A, and it's great to see two people who have just made two films that just don't age. You know?
Yeah. Well, getting back to Halloween briefly.
Chainsaw is like just transcendent. I mean,
Yeah.
it's beyond horror. It's beyond everything.
Because it's a nightmare. It ends as a nightmare. I mean, what happened to the black guy running down the street?
yeah.
Dude's running down the street.
He ends up in Event Horizon.
Still going.
He loses weight. He gets
It's away.
Hope he's on Twitter.
That was really racist of me.
No, I think you're highlighting a problem in the genre.
Oh, right. That's what it was.
A Death Wave problem.
That's weird. Getting back to Halloween.
Halloween.
This is all about. This is sort of a thing that I've been getting into lately, as of the last couple of years, is kind of like the whole Halloween records. Like I've never the sound effects or the cool groovy songs and stuff like that. I didn't have that growing up. I mean, I think I bought every Freddy, Nightmare on My Street when that came out. I bought that 7-inch and stuff like that. But did you guys grow up on that kind of stuff, like the sound effects?
I grew
had
up on that stuff.
All the records, all of the spooky sound effects records, and they were all by Peter Pan Records.
Yep.
And had these amazing covers. And then I also had this compilation record, which I still have, called Monster Mash. And you would open it up, and it was all of these scary songs. It had Witch Doctor and Monster Mash. Does your chewing gum lose its flavor on the bedpost overnight? I don't know how that's scary, but it was on there. But you would open it up, and it had this map on the inside of, I think it was supposed to be Dracula's castle. So it would have the haunted swimming pool, and it was like a maze. And I still have my original one from when I was a kid.
Monster Mash is on every one of them, right?
Yeah.
But what about you guys? What were the ones that stood out for you? Because again, I'm always kind of on the hunt for these things.
Well, I mean, my favorites are the ones that everybody has are just the ones that everybody has. I mean, there are a few obscure ones, and they're obscure because they really suck. I mean, there's a lot of really bad ones out there, but the two Disney ones were always favorites of mine. I mean, and this was before VCRs and stuff. So, I was constantly playing those records over and over and over and over and over. It just drove everybody nuts. But the chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house and some of those sounds to me are still those are my favorite sounds. And they're kind of always playing in my head, the Miss Havisham scream, that they keep ending all of those little bits with. And then Sounds of Terror was always, I loved that one. It has the really cool Dracula drawing on the front.
I loved that one because on the back, and I always wanted to get this as a tattoo, it's got this adorable demon, which I'm looking up now. He's like the cutest demon in the world, and I was always like, I love him. I want him as a tattoo. I gotta find that picture. It
starts with Monster Mash.
It starts with Monster Mash.
But
then it has like they're little kind of short stories, which is what I like. I don't like just the sound effects. I like the ones with the stories
and stuff.
Yeah, this was the front of it, the ghostly. Oh wait. There's an adorable little demon on the front too. That guy.
Yeah, that guy
is cute.
Yeah, I loved that one. I still have this one.
I had I would get like tapes, horror sound effects tapes.
Yeah.
I remember I don't even remember what they were. I was like an orange tape, and I would get them to play in the haunted houses I was making. You know, I'd have the tape recorder set up and those would be going. And then I also had stuff like I had that Boris Karloff does Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. Yeah. I had stuff like that. So yeah, I did always, and I had the Disney ones, you know, the one you're talking about.
And the famous Monsters Speaks, it seems like everybody had that one.
Yeah. I didn't, but I do know exactly what
childhood really sucked.
Did you guys have any of the ones, and I can't even tell you which ones these were because I had so many and I don't have these anymore, but the records themselves had images on them and they were ghost stories.
Picture discs.
And the records, they had the pictures on them, but they were ghost stories. And I had a couple of those. I don't even remember what they were now.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I know Disney did some picture discs because I remember I had like a Jungle Book picture disc.
I did have those too. They were like the stories of the movies.
They had the like cereal boxes had the cardboard records on there, you know, so it was like an actual cardboard record. And then
I've always been way into like stuff. That sort of Halloween merchandise for kids like that. Like I used to collect there's a whole series of coin banks that look like a coffin that are wind up, and you put your penny at the end, it presses a button, and a skeleton comes out.
The hand comes and gets it.
Yeah, and I used to have like dozens of those. I just like anywhere I'd find one, they all looked different. It was like the coolest thing. This little skeleton thing for a kid.
Did you guys have this one?
Yeah.
This was my favorite record.
Stories,
I loved this one so much.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely, and I still buy those.
Yeah.
I do $100 worth of them.
Unfortunately, they're like really expensive now from that because other dorks like us are looking for this.
Wow,
stuff.
I have so many of these. I never knew that they were worth anything. I was just
no, they're not. Becca, can I? Do you want to sell?
Yeah.
How many prints of Sleepy Hollow do you have?
I just sold one actually. I've had up to like 5 at the time.
5 film prints of Sleepy Hollow, the cartoon version.
I need to see.
It's so great.
Yeah,
you haven't seen it?
No, I haven't.
I ran into Jump Cut once.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's probably maybe the main thing I feel like I need to see most Halloween. Like I feel like that's so. it brings back everything.
Awesome.
That's the song scares me. It's a hip hip and a hippity hop.
And it's the way he looks.
There's
something about the way he looks. It brings back so many memories of childhood.
And it's really only the last like 7 minutes of that 30-minute piece.
The Headless Horseman is like my favorite villain of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just.
It's so interesting. And it's also the perfect Halloween one.
It's perfect Halloween.
He throws a pumpkin at the screen.
He's hardly ever mentioned a Halloween nowadays.
I'm telling you, the bar scene in that is terrifying where like the hot guy is telling the story and you see Ichabod like putting the salt on the egg and you see, and there's something where they do with a knife where they slice a hair into. There's
that's
so
a great
many.
scene. That's the scene where the lighting dips. It's all lit by firelight, by the fireplace, and there's like a cat who jumps inside of a jack-o'-lantern, and creepy weird people show up. Like there's the old guy like doing his hands like this. That's where because the first 20 minutes of that is just like
he's in love.
Just like a love thing, and then all of a sudden the last 7 minutes is this awesome. I mean, that is one of the best animated sequences of all time. Through the woods. It's incredible.
It's incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, it's so the attention to detail is miraculous.
Do you have something that you always go back to kind of kickstart the season, like something that because it seems like I was watching AMC Halloween. Fear Fest, and it's just such fucking bullshit.
It's like 72 hours.
It's repeating the same shit.
Halloween 5, 6.
It's all the Halloween movies, and then if they do Friday 13th, I just happen to flip the channel just as Susan Voorhees or whatever her name is topless, and it's all censored, and you're like, that woman should never have been censored. It's one of the most beautiful natural things on earth.
Hammer movies and a little bit of everything, and now
it's just a couple franchises.
Predator 1 and 2.
It's always like a return to the Halloween specials.
What kind of Halloween specials?
Well, like the Garfield Halloween one was on there.
Oh yeah, we just watched. Dylan just
that
watched that. It's on Hulu, exactly.
But for the longest time, you couldn't find it. But that one was terrifying when I was a kid.
What was the one everyone told us to record the other night on AMC?
Mr. Boogedy.
I recorded it, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. I've never seen this.
Cool.
So I'm going to watch it like tonight.
ABC Family used to show all of that great stuff because a lot of it I was a little bit too old for, or you know, I was watching cannibal movies.
Right.
I don't want to watch Mr. Boogedy.
I had
there was like those few years, and then I reverted back to my senses.
The Fat Albert Halloween special is
I screened that on 16.
Yeah, you did. I watched it last year there, and that one's great.
You used to be able to see that, and you would think, because every once in a while, like Walmart or Kmart has one of those things where they have like 10 TV Halloween specials and for $5 or whatever. And I'll buy a few of those and give them like neighbor kids or something. They're like, oh, they love them, but they can't see that stuff anymore.
No.
It doesn't get replayed on TV.
ABC Family is like the Tim Burton family this year, and they're just kind of replaying.
That's why you got to point them to
things.
YouTube, because all that shit's on YouTube.
Yeah, or the Halloween tree and things like that.
The Halloween tree is amazing, but the sweetest Halloween episode. Well, I loved the Disney one for starters with the talking pumpkin.
I screened that on 16.
I know you did.
It was always the small things that I liked the most. The shorts that you wouldn't see anywhere else. The haunted machine one that you played. It's that stuff that like just makes you go, oh, cool. There's just always shit out there.
Yeah,
every year you discover something.
There's this Raggedy Ann and Andy one that I have on that now Blu-ray from when I was a kid. And it's the ugliest pumpkin in the world. And it's not a scary one. It's supposed to be sweet. And it's about Raggedy Ann and Andy helping this ugly pumpkin that no one else wanted. And he was left in the pumpkin patch all alone because no one wanted him and he was rotting there. And so they try to find him a home. And it's just this sweet, sweet story. But that one, I just always love that one.
Here's a question, because I don't know the answer.
Stuff,
where's the pumpkin connection and the jack-o'-lanterns? Do you know anything about the lore of Halloween, where that kind of originates? Is it to do with Sleepy Hollow, or is it something? I have no idea.
It's actually
originated.
Well, Elric, you should.
They were gourds.
Yeah, they were gourds and squash and apples.
Halloween was
usually, and it started back in Celtic religions.
Well, I know Halloween did, but I didn't know about anything about the pumpkin itself.
They would carve them and let them dry. So usually it was like gourds or squash or some type of melons, and they would carve them and let them dry, and they would put them out to try to scare off the evil spirits.
So it goes well. And I wonder why it made such a, because Halloween is an American tradition.
I was just about to say, because I was
when did it become
hanging out
American?
with Jason from Deathgasm last week, and he said something that fucking shocked me. He said that you guys don't have Halloween.
If you listen to Killer POV, you would have known that. No, but as a kid, I was one of the few people who got his friends to go trick or treating, and you'd get to the houses, and it's like they knew what it was because they've seen pop culture. It wasn't a celebrated thing, and people would have literally. I mean, people probably think I'm joking, but I remember going with my friends into strangers' houses, and I'm not even kidding, going to a second level floor in a house. Like, oh, come downstairs with us and we'll get you something from the fridge. Walking and not even worrying. Yeah. And we walk downstairs and they would open their fridge and there'd be, any Kiwis listening will get this, Just Juice, it's called. That's the brand. Just Juice. Oh, would you like a Just Juice? It's like a giant 2-liter juice. And I'm like, no. And they're like, they look around, here's money. You know,
well, how did you think this was going to work if this is not?
Because look, I was born here, right? So I had memories of being in America. I lived here till I was 6. So I would kind of infect all the kids around me. And it wasn't a thing. I mean, some people did celebrate, and I think it's probably becoming bigger. The internet has made everyone more Americanized, like a lot of the Western cultures. But no, it's true. It's not something that's celebrated. So it does make me go, oh, I know there's a big Irish, obvious population in America, but how did it become? It's just an American thing.
I would assume that that's how, when Irish and Scottish settlers started coming over, that they brought it with them, because it was originally obviously a Celtic paganistic holiday, and then the Christians come in and they're like, oh, don't believe this, but you can keep this kind of. And so Halloween was preserved in those cultures, and then when all of the settlers came over, they bring it with them. And I mean, I think that especially because, and Elric, you're not going to laugh at the region I live in, the majority of the Appalachia region was Irish settlers. At least my family was, and we still carve apples. You dry them. And that's definitely something that kind of, I mean, my family just came over like a generation and a half ago, but that's something that I think that they kind of brought with them, or I don't know why we do that, but you carve apples and leave them outside.
Stupid, Beth.
It's awesome. It's fucking awesome. You should carve an apple.
It's too
fun.
small.
You carve an apple.
In America, we carve big pumpkins.
And actually, here's something I remember from my childhood being like, why are we carving apples? Because you see the television shows and everybody's carving pumpkins, and we carved pumpkins too, but we also carved apples. And then I remember that my mom got us this Vincent Price carving apple kit.
The shrunken head
Yeah,
kit.
and then I was suddenly like, okay, it's cool. So.
Has anyone ever bobbed for apples?
Yes!
I do remember that.
I don't know that I have.
It was fun. I don't
just-
know
I
where
just
that
know
was
it's
from.
gross.
I
was
wish we
like-
knew where all these things came from, though. Like
I just
the
know
idea
it
of
from
bobbing
the
apple.
Peanuts special. I think is don't they bob for
They
apples?
bob for apples in that.
Yeah.
No, I remember
Yeah, I've
bobbing for
actually done
apples
that.
in
None
high
of the
school.
girls wanted to do it because they would
No,
mess their
because
hair
you'd
up.
mess your hair up and everything.
All the guys would, bend over the
Just
thing.
slobbering.
And yeah.
Sounds like an awful
Like, there's
thing.
no way anybody would do that now. But,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, your kids growing up, like, they won't have near as much fun as we did on Halloween. Because
we worry about them more than we
Even
did.
so.
I remember
we
going
were
off.
totally run loose.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
my own, to roam the streets till
Yeah.
midnight, toilet papering people's houses, and
Even some of the games, because like a couple of years ago, I made that short that focused on that game where like the kids sit in a circle and you close your eyes and you go, okay, a witch has died. Here's her hair. Here are her eyes. And you pass the food
Now
products
Dylan
around.
did get, and we went to a Burbank Boo Bash, and they had where you'd put your hand in the box, and it was like spaghetti. And
Yeah,
then
this
the
was his
grapes,
hair.
which was something. Yeah, that was something that was also really awesome to me when our elementary schools would have like those Halloween bashes.
Yeah.
I made a
But
short
you can't
about
even
that
dress
game.
up now.
And there's
Those
cake
schools.
walks, and
I remember the cakewalks.
stuff like that. all
But I
those-
made a short about that game a couple of years ago, and it showed at a whole bunch of festivals, and I got a whole bunch of people saying like, that's a really twisted game that the parents, why did they do that? And I was like, did you guys not fucking play
Yeah.
this? That was
I
just
when you were making that, I had never heard that.
My grandma did that for like all of the cousins and everything. So it was, the peeled grapes. Here's his eyeballs. And the
yeah.
last thing was she had a one of those old telephone. What do you call it?
That's a telephone.
No, not a telephone.
That would be like
Back when they used to be
board.
plugged into a switchboard.
yeah,
Switchboard,
switchboard. Weird,
like the old telephone
Wow.
switchboard.
Yeah.
So she would, then I don't know what it was supposed to represent, but you would hold on to like the switches, and she would turn that little crank, and it would shock us because we
cool.
just had our hands in like the spaghetti.
Your grandmother
And she
electrocuted you?
she didn't have any idea, but it was like every kid was, her little fun little Halloween
Quick
party.
disclaimer: his grandma was William Castle.
It turned into this big cry fest, everyone, "Ah!" So she had no idea. She's really cranking that.
I mean, how cool is that? That's a grandma doing that. Like some grandmas out there going, "I'm going to electrocute the fucking grandchildren. They're going to never forget Halloween."
Now, one of my best memories from youth is corn mazes, which you always did at night, and they were a blast. Are there any corn mazes in Los Angeles?
Yeah, the one out by the main pumpkin patch, right?
Yeah, we went to that.
Near Pierce College.
Yeah, whatever that fucking pumpkin patch is
Yeah.
called. But there's a few
There
around.
are, but
Not at night though. I don't know if I don't know if it's a night
I've never
thing.
gone at night.
Oh, we always did.
That would be
used to
hard
go
to get
at
out.
night.
They're hard mazes
Yeah,
often
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
There's one over in Oak
We
Glen
did
where
that
we go
too.
apple picking. But we always do it by day. I would never do it.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
night.
Oh,
Give
you
us a
have to do
flashlight.
them by night. Yeah, you get a flashlight, and then you
That's it.
send like
Yeah.
a group of 50 kids out into them, and
Are you guys into this? Like, because I'm not into it, and I remember of all the people I've met, Darren Bousman's probably the most into it. The extreme, and also, now who's the guy from your who always came to your thing?
Russ.
He's really into it. These like extreme haunts where you sign away your life, and then you go on and put
I don't
a
like
hood
that
on.
stuff.
Isn't it
at
funny?
all.
I feel like a lot of people really loved horror movies when they aren't into that, but people who discover it later get really into the pushing the
I'm not
boundaries.
into that at
we
all.
have a phenomenal reviewer. I work with her through both Fango and Blum, Camilla Jackson, who will do any of those, and she loves them, and she will write these brilliant articles about how wonderful they are and how they push limits and make you feel things. And I'm always like, dude, there's just yelling at you and telling you to get on the ground and pushing you
down
around.
with
It's like, it's like therapy or some
That
shit.
stuff isn't Halloween to me.
Nah.
Like when this year was I try to do
masochism.
Yeah.
I don't like that stuff.
That's not what I like. That's not what I like about horror movies.
Right.
Either. Like I don't like the kind of horror movies where it's just brutality or something. And that's what those feel like. Where
that stuff's for like Valentine's Day.
There's no fun in it. It seems like it's
because I don't really watch a lot of super gory movies around this time. I mean, I do the rest of the year, but this is for Frankenstein and Dracula and werewolves and
I think that's why Halloween 3 eventually caught up, because people kind of caught up to Halloween 3 and go, that's what it's about. Halloween 3 is actually the only one of that franchise obviously that was just about the season and had a fucking crazy twist on it with the kids getting killed. But it makes sense in the long run that people who are into Halloween actually liked it in the long run. It took a while, but
I loved it when it first came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was always defending that
the
movie.
first time you saw it, you still got it?
I still.
Oh man, I remember renting it going, where the fuck is Michael?
I don't know if I got it, but it was, I was
interesting.
10 years old or something like that. But it was a scary movie. The poster scared me. The commercial scared me. I just thought it was, I didn't even know. I don't think I even thought about Michael Myers, really.
Wow.
Yeah, it is more about Halloween than Halloween 1 and 2 are. I mean, Halloween 1 and 2 could kind of take place at any time, but
it didn't matter when he was
Halloween 3 is
coming
all
home.
about the costumes and all that kind of stuff.
Because that's
kids
my
trick-or-treating
go-to every year. I mean, it was on VHS and then DVD and now Blu-ray, but this year was the year I was like, I watch the same stuff every year and I have forever. So I'm like, I'm going to watch things that I've either never seen before, I haven't seen maybe in 20 years. And I went like the first week and I kept seeing crap after crap after crap. I'm like, no, I'm putting on Halloween 3 right now. That the WNUF Halloween special.
Yeah, you showed it to me for the first time at your house not long ago, and I'd never seen it, and it really is pretty authentic. And I'm surprised they don't broadcast that. If that came on AMC, I'd be glued to it.
I know.
Because it's so well done.
I still
tell people what it is if they haven't heard, because some people might not.
Well, it's these guys, Chris LaMartina and Jimmy George, did this movie called the WNUF Halloween special, which I think originally they released it on YouTube and only now you can buy it. But the gist of it is it's an hour-long thing. It's supposed to be this discovered videotape that was found, and it was, I think, a broadcast in 1980. I'm going to say 3 or something, or 86 or something like that.
Local television.
So it's local television, and you just watch this thing, and it is so completely, totally authentic. Like you're out in Des Moines, Iowa, watching TV in 80 whatever. And it's just so perfectly done. And it's a news broadcast, and they keep cutting back to, their kind of A story. But then they have all of these commercials, like the local commercials.
Like Amazon Women on the Moon for Halloween.
No, but it's done straight. It's done like you're meant to discover it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like, oh, I found this in Daddy's porn
when was
stash.
it made? It was made in the 80s? Or
no, it was made a couple years ago. Yeah.
Oh.
They made the Lovecraft thing.
The Call Girl of Cthulhu.
They made Call Girl of
Ryan
Cthulhu.
talks a lot about this one,
There's no other movie, because all of the movies that I watch are at least 30 years old, my go-to Halloween movies. That is the only thing that I revisit like over and over and over. And they just put out the WNUF record. On vinyl, which is really fun. I bought that.
It is really authentic. Fun. Like it's even when you realize, like at a certain point, you realize, oh, obviously this isn't real. You still go with it completely.
It's one of my.
You want to believe it.
It's one of my favorite things of the past few years, because it's one of those things that I keep showing to people and introducing it. And a lot of times I won't have any history on it. It's like, oh, just watch this thing, and they're like, what in the hell is this? Because it's so authentic.
It's interesting you bring that movie up as a tradition, because when you asked earlier, like what movie we watch as a tradition, I don't really have one, but I've sort of lost what I did do being a cord cutter, because I don't have cable anymore and I'm just like Netflix, Hulu, and all that stuff. I used to just like around October, like turning on the TV and seeing whatever was on.
Yeah.
Because it was never, you would like you're saying, like, oh, fuck, the AMC showing Halloween 4. But I would like to be like, oh, awesome, Halloween 4 is on. That's not usual. But now that I don't have cable and you're talking about, like a horror host show or whatever, I don't have that at all.
Yeah.
I just have, like, I go to Hulu, like, oh, there's the Garfield special. But it's not that exciting. What weird Halloween.
Is that funny psychologically how we
love
if something's playing live, it's 10 times more exciting than if you had to push a button to pick it.
Well, it's because there's that sense of community, because we like to enjoy art with people.
Knowing somebody else is watching.
Someone else is at a station broadcasting it, someone else is watching it right then. Even though you don't see them, there's a sense of community.
I have cable and I think all the channels, and it's still, this year there isn't much going on. They have AMC, but none of the other special or channels are showing stuff.
Yeah,
and it used to be
people are kind of not in the spirit this year.
I made a joke last week about the war on Halloween, but it's like there is kind of a war on Halloween because like the stores.
Oh my god!
I mean, there's Christmas stuff out before Halloween stuff.
Not acceptable.
Do you want to hear a story?
There's still Thanksgiving to come. Come on,
like 3 or 4 years ago, Burbank always has a day where. The holiday in the park. So then they have like, you're supposed to go out and all the stores are decorated for Christmas, and they have cider and all this kind of shit and stuff.
Which is really weird because I went last year and it was like 95 degrees out.
Yeah,
and you're like drinking hot cider and everybody's got Santa hats on.
So they always decorate for that. They put up their Christmas along the streets. The street lights have like Christmas trees on and shit like that. And there was one year a few years ago where they had decorated for it before fucking Halloween. And I sent an email to the city.
You're that guy.
This is why we're doing this episode. It's for reasons like that.
And I was like,
it's totally reasonable.
I understand you're trying to promote small businesses, get people to buy stuff, because it's about buying stuff,
right. Commercial,
and you want to support. I was like, but I think it's sort of ludicrous that kids are going to be trick or treating under Christmas trees. But it was literally they were going to be trick or treating under Christmas trees, and I was like, I think that it's wrong. I think you should respect the seasonal holidays. Let them exist.
I officially motion that you are October Society, and we strip it from the movie. And you are now.
I got an email back. I can't remember who it was from, but it was someone mayor-esque. And he was like, you're right. I don't know why it happened like that this year, but we won't do that again. And I was like,
wow.
Victory for the 1%.
Since you're Burbank Pro, are they doing anything for ladies' night tomorrow night? Like, do I get to take Marty out?
Tomorrow night is ladies and gents night. They changed it.
I saw
something, ladies and gents.
That lobster truck is where it's fucking at. Yes. There's a lobster roll truck there. I want to die in that truck.
Burbank.
Yeah.
Well, for both of you, I kind of wanted to wrap up our Halloween conversation regarding traditions every year. And the thing is, with Mike, I know that you're a big advocate for the communal experience in terms of screening movies, because I mean, you were doing it in your backyard before you did it at Jump Cut Cafe as part of Secret 16.
You did a Jump Cut. Cool.
Remember that place?
Why'd you leave town and we went under?
Elric, I drove by for the first time.
No, don't tell me. I don't want to know yet.
And I was like,
is there a new sign up?
There were people, and they were like, there's a new sign I could see.
I gotta go by.
It was late. It was like 10:30, but it must have been like the owners in there like doing something. But I saw.
It's sushi though.
Yeah. That was my first time. It's into chill.
I actually had an idea that we would screen your movie, like the Secret 16. We'd go in late at night when no one's there and do it on the back wall in the parking lot. And I think that'd be really cool, like the ghost of Jump Cut.
I still Resurrected. Think that whenever the sushi bar opens, the entire...
No, it's open. He just said he went by it.
I thought he was saying that like they're still doing renovations. I think that the entire horror community just needs to show up one day with our computers and be like, we're going to write scripts here.
That'd be kind of funny.
You're cool with it.
A sit-in, as it were.
Where was I before Elric interrupted?
Secret 16.
Oh, that's right.
You were summarizing.
No, because you the last couple of years you had done a Halloween marathon at Jump Cut, and I feel like that's part of tradition. The idea of like curating a series of films that you want to share with your friends. That's a big part of Halloween to me. So you're doing it again this weekend at Creature Features.
At Creature Features, our new
fuck
new
you.
home.
You're a piece of shit. You're worse than Michael Floyd. You hear that, Floyd? You're worse than him.
Nobody's worse.
Actually, no, I'm helping you, so it's okay.
So I do like. I mean, the thing about holidays are for communities because holidays are made by people, and they're all, it's a people thing, and so we're doing the marathon at Creature Features the day after Halloween because that's how scheduling works, but it's still Halloween weekend. We're doing a 10-hour.
It's November.
Now, are you doing the kid stuff again? Because like last year, I brought Marnie and she loved it until that damn UNICEF thing played, and then I was like, "We're leaving Marnie now."
I'm not doing it like that this year. I'm having like a cartoon and a feature, and then a thing, and then a feature, and then a thing, and then a feature. The first feature is moderately kid friendly. It's a '60s anthology. I never announced the title.
Give all the clues.
All right, so the first one is all of my movies are scope because
we got that big screen.
We got that big screen, and for people that don't understand film prints, it's like a different lens and stuff. But so it's 2.35, actually not in 16, but whatever. So the first one is a Technicolor '60s anthology film. I always like to start off with an anthology.
Did
film.
you show the same '60s anthology last year?
I never do repeats.
Okay,
I never do repeats.
Wow.
The second one is a 70s Italian giallo that predates Deep Red and is very deep red. Dario has to have watched this movie. It is very deep red. The music is very deep red. Then I'm doing a very hairy 80s creature feature.
It's Harry and the Hendersons, isn't it?
I would love to have a print of that, actually. I really love that movie. But no. And then I'm doing a 50s... I don't know how I describe it on the site, but it's like an ice cold 50s creature feature. And then I'm closing it out with an 80s taboo ghost story, a haunted house movie that's very taboo.
I think I know what that is.
I think I know too.
Mike Williams, Sexy Time.
Exactly.
We're doing but you haven't tested any of this there yet, so this will be. We have to get some of this equipment down there.
Literally, this is we're going to be figuring it out as we go.
It's going to be in the gallery.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the space yet, but I'm glad it's happening.
I'm getting Portos and I'm bringing it, and I'm going to sit there and eat my scones, and it's going to be awesome.
They're going to have snacks and stuff for people to buy, and I asked them, and I don't know if it's come through yet, but there's that cupcake store next door. I think they might be doing something with the cupcakes, yummy cupcakes or whatever, so people can stay, full during the screening. But
now I'm eating like 5 cupcakes plus the scones from Portos. It's happening.
Exactly. And buy stuff at Creature Features like you would supposed to buy stuff at Jump Cut.
Right. I think ultimately though, like the thing about all of this stuff is like the people who do this shit for no reason, like no one's, even Jump Cut the last year and a half, there's no reason for me to keep doing it. Like financially, there's no incentive. There's no reason. It's only hurting my family. But something inside you wants to keep doing it. And for me, and I said this at the time. I mean, we haven't really talked about it. The Jump Cut came to life for me once I met Mike.
Secret 16.
You're welcome.
And he still has awful taste, but something what I wanted it to be hadn't been there yet. And even when I did my first shorts night, I felt it a little bit, but it wasn't until I was like working with him and I felt
showing film prints.
Yeah, showing film, but it was more than that. It was seeing people come together, like you said.
Trivia night.
No, trivia was the event that kept us above board, but it wasn't the one you liked. No, but it's always
like the corporate kind of thing.
Yeah, we're like the
we're film people. We want to see
That's
a movie.
How we make money, but we don't really like you guys.
No, but it was something about seeing people. It's about seeing kids come there at the start, and then they have to leave, and then their parents stay. And Sean Keller's there watching with his kids, and deadly bees are happening. There was just something that's a little magic, and I felt it again a little bit when we went to this Prince of Darkness screening, seeing a movie. The print, it's not as nice because it's a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But seeing a movie in the location that's not a theater, I think I think what I'm saying is I think the magic of the theater is kind of the multiplex is kind of going.
Yeah.
And that feeling that I really want it to be isn't really there anymore. When I go to the New Bev or something, I can still feel it.
Yeah.
On the right bill.
Yeah.
But
that's what we
talked about. But these communal things, we can still create them.
Like people singing in Scrooge, you would never get that at a theater now because movies are not thought of as something personal really anymore. It's thought it's and sure, there are always teenagers just going to the movies to do whatever.
Those crazy teenagers.
Yeah, but
there's cigarettes and curse words.
But they're so. I mean, like we were talking about day and date. There really isn't. Movie theaters themselves don't promote themselves as something special anymore.
Yeah, and they have rules. A lot of rules and a lot of people guarding them.
It's a hassle. Like I said something the other day because we went and saw Crimson Peak last weekend, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this was such a hassle just to go to the movie theater that's 5 minutes away. Because like I have to log in, I have to remember my logins. I just can't walk up and buy a ticket anymore. And then it's
you could.
No, but
but then there's all it's just all kiosks.
You have to
and
pick
I want
your,
the old lady
seat.
at the box office, and my old
this is
thing
us
back
old
home.
people. I mean, this goes with anything.
No, it is, but
buying stuff online versus at a record store. You don't have someone making recommendations. I mean, there's a lot of awesome stuff now, and it's all the awesome stuff now. To me, is geared towards convenience.
Yeah,
and with convenience, you'll always lose. To me, quality, but there is that trade-off. Like it is awesome that I can say, oh, I wish I could watch the Bunnicula special, and I go on YouTube and it's right there, and I can show Dylan or whatever. But then there is a trade-off that it doesn't seem special. It seems like you can have, it's just another thing that's on the TV.
Right. And then there are the things like there's the theater that I grew up going to back home. It's no longer a movie theater. A guy that I graduated with, Kevin Burkett, turned the state into like a
please don't say a church.
Hall.
Okay.
No,
that's the worst. When you go
there was a guy
downtown, you see all
before
these
him who
theaters
just
that are churches.
totally ran it in the ground, changed the name of it. It's like you don't change a name on one of the. It wasn't an old house, but it's this old beautiful Art Deco theater. And this guy that I know went and restored it and everything, but he shows an occasional movie kind of as a special event, like Gone with the Wind or something. He'll charge $25 or whatever it is. But that place is exactly, I mean, it's sort of like the New Bev, but that's what I want to do. And every time I would go home, like, God, please show a horror movie tonight, or that week that I'm home or something. And they were never, ever, ever did. But it was, kind of a crappy screen. He said he had, we have stereo. He just had speakers up there, but they were dead. The sound came from behind the screen, so there was an echo. And it's like, that's how I saw the majority of the movies of my life.
And, people now would listen to you saying, like, well, you're romanticizing something that's awful.
Yeah, it's true.
That's nostalgia. But, I love, there was one theater we had to go to Indianapolis, like an hour and a half away. They're like, wow, THX, and it was like the best you could get. I want a great looking thing, but like with that, don't want all of the other hassle. And it's like, this is kind of why the people are, not going to the theater anymore. They'd rather just watch it at home, or they're building their huge
has to be an experience.
Yeah.
Which is what Quentin Tarantino is trying to do with Hateful Eight, a road show print where it's it's really funny that the film print version is longer than the digital version.
Yeah.
And it's a stubbornness, and the people that will care about that are people that are our age. I really doubt that anyone else is going to.
Unless they're parents. Because I teach them like 15, 16-year-olds, and not many of them, but some of their parents are like us.
Yeah.
And they're like just all about it themselves.
But
and
it's nothing that's there's no going back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I wonder if Tarantino thinks, or like Christopher Nolan, putting Interstellar out in theaters and on 35 earlier, if they're like trying to force an issue, which is, it's something obviously I'm a big film guy. It looks better. It's not debatable. It's not debatable. Right. But the convenience, I understand. I understand going to.
I don't think they think they will change the world. I think they just don't want to let go.
And I don't want to go to a theater where like, oh, do you want to buy the couch? Do you want to sit on? I'm like, no, I don't want to sit on a couch. I just want to sit in a crappy chair and watch a movie. But
what is good is these things that we miss, though. we still can find them. It's just not mainstream anymore. It's a boutique thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So
you're now saying what Friedkin said to you.
No, he said it was dead.
No, Friedkin said, "What are you going to show your film prints in a bar somewhere?"
Can we finally address that? Like, clearly, he has no concept of the difference between film capture and film and release strategy. He thought if you shot a movie on 16 that it had to be screened on 16. It was ridiculous. He was completely wrong, but it's okay. He's a genius.
He completely objectively, I thought he owned you. I thought he did a good job of arguing your point.
I fucking held for a man without a microphone.
No, you held your own. And Academy Award winning Oscar editors and Chris Innes had your back afterwards.
Exactly.
I saw that.
Wow.
I did see that.
I saw last night at the Evil Dead screen.
Oh yeah, tell us about that because you just went to
like
this.
Evil Dead?
Ash versus Evil Dead. I liked, didn't love it. My expectations were probably too high. I read your piece. I think you're completely wrong. Ash is very different. He's
Really?
very
Okay.
different. And that was maybe part of it is just Bruce. So good things, it's fun. It's totally fun.
Did they just show the first one?
Just the first one.
Okay. I think that's the con, because there is a pretty drastic change by the end of the first episode, and then by the second episode, he's
To me,
totally.
Bruce was overdoing it by 25% the whole time. That's one of my main. It wasn't as funny to me because it's like Final Girls or whatever it's called. That's sort of where they're trying really hard to be like Army. There was always just sort of a smugness to him that wasn't so forced.
Well, not always, because Evil Dead, he has no smugness.
Yeah,
the first
but-
movie is just a wreck. But
I liked it. It felt forced to me. I had fun. But it wasn't. Let's put it this way. They were interviewing people after the movie for ads or whatever. Like, what did you think? What did you think? And some dude, God bless his soul, was being interviewed, and he said, "This is what I've been waiting for so long." Clearly, the tone of my voice, I'm mocking him, but and he said, and I don't want to say this, but at one point it brought a tear to my eye, and then he literally put his hand to his eyes and tilted his head down, and he fucking wept. And I was like, "This is why I did not get that."
full respect.
This is why we're doomed. Because I saw Evil Dead at the drive-in from the roof of my fucking house.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the original Evil Dead kid.
Yeah.
Like I was the original Star Wars kid.
Yeah.
My love for Star Wars died in 1999. It will never come back. J.J. Abrams cannot revive it.
Yes, he can.
There's no
There's hope.
way that Evil Dead or Ash versus Evil Dead can live up to my expectations.
There is a way though, because it was because Sam's fucking awesome. You know, he has to me continued to be awesome. I loved Oz. To me, he's continued to be an inspirational filmmaker. I really liked it, and there's very precious little of frames in his career do I dislike. For Love of the Game is probably the only thing of his I just could do without, but I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's Tappert, it's Raimi, it's the whole crew. So there was a chance. Maybe my expectations weren't taken into consideration. There's a 45-minute TV episode. I don't want to bash it. I did like it. To me, it was like a B. You know what I mean? I was like, that was cool. That was fun. It's not. I don't know that I'm going to watch the series. But
why is Begus hating on it?
Because Begus hates on everything.
Because of digital or something? I saw some comment he posted saying digital.
I saw that.
Was that about digital effects or digital shooting?
Ash versus
digital. I mean, what does he
digital
think?
blood something?
Yeah, that was just him being a hater. I went with Joe Begus, and he loves to hate on things, but he also gave it a B, which is I replied to his tweet. I was like, come on, dude.
And he's a big Raimi
Well, I feel
fan.
like it's one of those things where I'm gonna watch Saturday, and I'm gonna be and then I'll watch it again Sunday, and then Monday, and then Tuesday.
I've seen the trailer.
And it's
I
like
keep
I'll probably
laughing every
like
time.
it more each time.
Yeah, I mean, he was
probably.
upset that there is quite a lot of CG gore and
Enhancements.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's all over the place.
You just can't get rid of that stuff. I mean, you're just
No,
never going
things
to
have
do.
gone too
It's
far.
never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you
really.
can get rid of it, but
You can, but no, they're not going to.
On our
Yeah.
TV budget.
well, we could go there because Joe shot his fucking movie for whatever.
But
you
it took
know.
him forever to shoot. It was a long shoot, right? It's not like a TV shoot where it's...
Sam had That's 45. I have the call sheet.
He probably had a luxurious shoot because he's Sam, but after that, the next director didn't. Yeah. I guarantee you the next director
those are half as long, though.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, why did Bekah say it? Because he doesn't like digital blood, and his comment of HD video. I mean, of course they're going to shoot it.
Of course,
they shoot Walking Dead on 16. That's got to be one of the last shows that they're shooting.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that.
They shoot Walking Dead on 16, which was traditional for TV shows for a long time. But
plus Ernest the Boss Dickerson's all up in there. You know,
I dug it. I didn't love it. That's what I'll say. I dug it.
But you might still love it in the long run. Could they?
Well, and that's the same thing. I went when I saw Army of Darkness opening night, and coming off of Evil Dead 2, I was expecting something different, and I remember walking out of there and going like, I liked it, didn't love it, and then after I've rewatched it, all of a sudden I love it. Now I might like it even more than Evil Dead 2. I adore Army of Darkness. So
let's go back to
Walking
that
Dead
fan
is
who...
not the last one. Castle is still shot on film as well.
Castle
still shot on film. I know it's weird, but they still shoot on film.
Back to the fan
At least
who was
they did actually.
True Detective was shot there. I mean, there are some.
True Detective was film.
First season was shot film, not second.
The fan who was weeping. We promised Jackson Stewart we would have you on the show. You will be able to defend your position for crying like a little girl in front of Mike.
That's not true. Come on.
I bet it is.
It wasn't Jackson.
Biggest Sam Raimi fan I know.
Well, I've seen it multiple times, and I think you'll grow to love it.
Yeah,
Plus, I've gotten to see the trajectory.
There was stuff that I really did like, and there was stuff that surprised me. Like, I mean, I guess some of the stuff it's such a show that's made for fans, but the stuff that was bumping for me was stuff that I wasn't used to. Like, I was like, Ash is fucking a girl doggy style in the bathroom. It's like, what's going on? Ash is stoned out of his mind. I was like,
the first 2 minutes.
Sounds like The Wrestler.
Yeah, and so I was like, what is going on? He's so dirty now, but yeah, I dug it. I didn't love it, but maybe.
How did you feel? I had the same question I asked Rob about, like, how would it translate to someone who doesn't know that world? They just turn on TV and go, "What's this new show?"
It would play like Shaun of the Dead or something. Okay, very goofy, very violent.
Could they get it?
Yeah.
Okay, they'd get that. There's a backstory to the demons.
They give
back?
you the backstory.
Oh, okay,
they give it to you in the middle of the episode. There's literally
very curious about that.
There's
part.
literally a sequence that's all of Evil Dead 1 and 2. Army of Darkness is in the bar. It's showing you clips of the old movies. It's exactly like.
So there's no medieval. He never went back into the medieval in this one.
No,
I told you before they can't reference that.
Right.
It's sort of implied.
But in Evil Dead 2, they reference it. He goes to the medieval.
But not until the last 2 seconds.
Yeah, but so you'd think you'd be able to react.
One thing I actually
the point is they're not going to flat out say, "Oh, he went there and then came back."
Okay.
But
one
if
of
you've
the
seen the
things,
movies, you realize that that's what happened.
One of the things I've actually always really liked about the Evil Dead series, that there is complete disregard for continuity.
Yeah, I love it.
Like 1 into 2 and 2 into 3, like none of them match up.
No, that's what Bruce said at the Q&A at the Evil Dead 1 and 2. He's just like, yeah, if you just took off the start of all of them and just forgot what we had just pieced them all together, it makes sense. Otherwise, it's just like each one's got this weird new intro,
Yeah.
It's great, though. I mean, you're at that Q&A, right?
Which one?
Where Bruce and
At
Sam.
be honest, no, I didn't go to that.
Oh, you've risked out. That was special. But anyway.
All right, what are you guys doing for Halloween night?
Trick-or-treating with my kids, and then probably going to this haunted house over in... I think Thousand Oaks. I forget what it's called. It looks
is it the Reign of Terror one?
Yes.
Yeah. I just sent Camilla. She should be there tonight. Our
free
reviewer. Mm-hmm. No. This is like a full out haunted house.
It's like $20. No, it's like $17 or front of line for $25. But it looks awesome. It's like, I think it says something like 85 different rooms or something.
Yeah,
like that.
it's like huge.
Yeah, it looks awesome. So I'll probably do that. I usually like to go to a haunted house on Halloween night, and then I'm going to a party after that.
Oh, what kind of party?
Yeah.
Graham Skipper's party.
Oh, Graham Skipper from Almost Human. Now, and Graham Skipper is one of the key members of the...
Come on, man.
Death Wave.
Death Wave.
Sam, what are you doing for Halloween?
Somebody ruined my Halloween.
Ruined?
Yeah, they're getting married, so I'm going to a wedding, and I
booted them.
I got married on Halloween.
People that get married on
usurped
holidays.
I know.
Why would they? Like, why would you get married on that day? It's just they didn't even think about it.
Cool.
Of course they thought about it. It's like, it's Halloween. They know that they're fucking everybody else's Halloween by doing
We
that.
did our rehearsal dinner on Halloween and then got married on the 1st. So
Yeah, well, my anniversary was just a couple days ago. It's like, you do it sort of before or after, that's fine, but don't do it. We know so many people that do it on the 4th of July, Halloween, da-da-da-da-da. It's like, yeah, no, I mean, Christmas is coming. Why don't you plan it for then? I hate it when people do that.
Yeah.
So you have to go to a wedding.
So we're going, but it's early, so we can go and have fun. But it's a costume wedding. So I mean, they're cool people, effects artists that I know. So I mean, it's fine, but
I'm still angry.
Well, nobody wants to go to a wedding on Halloween.
Yeah.
I definitely don't.
I don't think people want to go to weddings.
I don't want to go to weddings at all.
Yeah, weddings kind of suck in general. I keep telling people that now whenever they ask, like, how was your wedding? I'm like, just take whatever money you have, go to the justice of the peace, and then take a really nice trip or make a film. I don't care. Buy a fucking house. Just don't spend it on the damn wedding.
There's a girl down the street that I keep running into when I walk my dog, and she's been planning her wedding for like a year, and it's not for another year. And I was just like, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody cares.
And you will forget it by the next day.
Nobody cares. Oh, well, she hired 4 or 5 videographers. She goes, how many did you have? None. I will never watch that video ever.
Sounds like she's auditioning for a reality show.
Yeah. No, it's just, it's her cultural thing too, but it's just, nobody cares. Just I do is the only thing that matters. Move on.
Yeah.
Save your money. Don't blow it all on that, and then you don't have anything.
Have a nice party in the backyard, and then take a nice trip.
Between now and Halloween, will you guys watch another film between now and Halloween? It's a couple days away.
No, this is when I pull
We
out
didn't get
my
to talk
old,
about Gin.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Gin.
I liked it.
And that's all that needs to be said.
Moving on.
I will watch Gin this week just to discuss.
Hey, it's up to a solid 1 star out of 5.
Mike was the first person I thought of the second I saw it. I immediately commented on your Facebook, and you're like, the almost 2-star rating has been encouraged.
It's dropped. I'm gonna be
Because Mike and I don't really know each other at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been at some
At trivia
events
and stuff,
and
yeah.
stuff.
We've been inside each other.
Yeah, a couple times, but I don't need to know everybody who I've been inside of. But it's when I was flipping around Netflix, I'm like, Jen, oh, that's Mike Williamson, because I know he's a thing. Because like even I know that you're.
Yeah, you've heard.
Yeah, it's no one has seen it, right?
No. I almost pushed the button.
There's actually,
night.
it's not a great movie, but there's
Now,
some
is this
really
cut, or did the producers cut this thing up?
from what I hear, it is 85% or 89%. I think there's Toby. It's they added a scene and then they added some CGI stuff that he didn't want, but it's generally his movie. It's more so than Poltergeist or whatever, but it's totally fine. There's some good set pieces. There's a lot of atmosphere.
Sir, your voice peaked when you said it's totally
Well, what's cool about it is I was expecting sort of a haunted house kind of thing, but it more is in line with. I'm such a nerd to say, but it's like his odd apartment trilogy is what I'll call it.
Toolbox Murders.
Okay, Toolbox Murders I enjoy.
That's like his last really cool movie. I thought Toolbox Murders is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Toolbox is great.
Like it's a kind of eerie
It's
movie.
not as good as that, but it's has that same sort of feel of people moving in an apartment and it's weird and there's things going on. They must have spent $1 million on fog machines because that thing is fogged the fuck out and it looks really
And
cool.
where's it set? Abu Dhabi or something?
Yeah, something like that. But
Sound
literally, they
weird.
walk out the doors and it's like a dream. Like they're just drenched in fog. So there is still this unique Toby thing going on. There's lots of cool angles, cool set pieces. It's not a great script, but it's totally worth a watch.
And that's his last film made?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's on Netflix.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
It just popped up on Netflix Instant, which I thought was cool.
It's totally, the ending is awful. The last 60 seconds, you're like, oh, why did it have to go out like that? But
Like Mockingbird.
But I was watching it going, this is better than I was anticipating.
Because it was years. It's like 5 years.
Yeah, I saw that one. I didn't see it. I saw what they call a cutter copy, where it's literally like a 15-minute version that they show to investors at AFM probably 4 years ago.
Yeah, there was. I don't know how public the story is on it, but basically the government. It's a government-funded film financing project that funded that movie.
Oh no! So United Arab Emirates, I remember where all the money
Exactly.
is. It's huge, yeah.
And they took offense with some of the. Basically, it's a couple that moves from wherever it is, Abu Dhabi to the States, and then they move back, and there was some stuff about them liking the States better, and the government took great offense to that, and thought it was like
interesting.
Thought it was like some sort of political statement that Toby was making, and took the movie away, and so it was like a thing, you know.
Wow.
Now all of our listeners are going to go watch Jin and never listen to us again, and it's going to be really sad. Thanks, Mike.
But when you watch the movie, like how did this become a government topic, in the war room?
I do want to ask that as a fun, like that won't be in chance of, because everyone knows who's listening to the show, you love the Mangler. Why is the Mangler not something that's easily available? Like, why is the Mangler one of these movies that isn't a Scream Factory throwaway Blu-ray? Is there a reason?
That,
no, but is there a rights thing?
I don't think Lionsgate
so.
or somebody?
It's just not
It was
good,
a New
honey.
Line movie. It was a New Line movie.
So
it's probably just is a demand thing. There's I can only buy so many.
How many
Blu-rays.
letters have you written?
There was.
I'm waiting till I see it on Blu-ray. I'm not going to see it.
A couple of months ago, I got it off Netflix. Like because I still get my DVDs from Netflix, and I got the DVD and I put it in, and I tweeted at you.
That's right.
I tweeted you a picture.
Good,
I was
right.
like, okay, Mike Williamson, here we go.
It's fucking crazy. I love
And
that
that's
movie.
what you kept saying, like, it's good, right? And I was like, it's a movie. I don't have
I
much
just
else.
watched Spontaneous Combustion.
I like that too.
A couple months ago or
Yeah.
so. The fire effects in that thing are still so awesome.
Awesome.
They're
Awesome.
awesome
Yeah.
in that movie.
Is that Brett Dorff?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's a cool
Yeah.
movie. There's clunkiness in there.
Yeah,
this is
there
what I
is.
like about Toby's. His movies, even if there's like clunkiness, there's always some weird shit, weird
Yeah.
energy going on.
That's why I like
Yeah.
Yesna's work. There's always clunky, but he'll do something with the effects where you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
with the effects. But yeah, exactly. It's
But I
Manglers
like-
did they make 3? Did they make a
I
couple
think
of
so.
them?
Yeah.
When Goblin played like 2 years ago, I was on the street corner and I just like looked over at some dude that just was leaving with his girl and was like, "Oh, Goblin, it was a cool show." And then we just chit chatted, and it turned out he like directed Mangler 3.
Oh, I know.
We know him. That's Eric Gardner.
Yeah. It's awesome. I love when that
Okay.
happens.
Yeah, I was talking to
think I ever saw
him
him
at
before.
Decker's party on Sunday
Yeah, he
or
was
Saturday.
there.
He was there.
He made Blue
Blue Hole.
that and that the Hag.
We're talking about someone different because I know someone else that made another Mangler movie. where
Maybe
our
it's the
kids go to
second
this-
one.
Because Mangler Reborn, I think, is to a guy I know named Matthew. Our kids go to the same daycare, and he directed the third Mangler, and it was one of those like
maybe it's 4.
feature. in
Yeah, this guy
8 days
directed
kinda thing.
one of the Manglers, but he did the short Blue Hole and the Hag.
It wasn't him. It was somebody else that I met. So they probably did the Mangler 3 or 2, whatever. Who cares?
yeah, I
anyway,
have no
You know, everybody's really done a
Halloween.
Mangler.
Well, wait a minute. There's a good
Everybody else
question.
done a Mangler,
Why the fuck are they
guys.
making sequels to a movie that didn't do any business?
well,
Like,
no,
why
it's-
is there a Mangler 4 if no Mangler 1 is
No,
even
I would
seen?
guess that's the video market. I mean, they,
Yeah,
you know,
it
it's
still
just like,
had Stephen King's name on it. Still had Robert.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but
How
that's a
many
lot of
Children of the
sequels,
Corns
yeah.
are we at now? Like
Yeah,
12?
but Children of the Corn 1 was a big movie. It did well. I mean, I'm just thinking Mangler can have done well, and then 4 sequels? That's fucking crazy.
it's
Hold
not
your
4.
tongue.
There's only 2 or 3.
You hold your
Hey, it's
tongue.
money, baby.
Graveyard Shift 17.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm going to find out the answer.
I'm looking up how many Manglers
They're
there
just
are.
loose with their
There's
rights.
only 3. I'm telling you.
So what are you guys doing for Halloween?
Same thing as you, pretty much.
Yeah, tomorrow night I'm doing Rotten Apple, Backwards Maze, and Boney Island with Marnie. Then Saturday, take her trick-or-treating, and then I'm going to a party.
Oh yeah.
See, I don't want to go to
That's-
parties on Halloween at all. I'm so burned out by that. All I want to do is trick or treat and then go home and watch.
Yeah,
a
I always
movie.
kind of
Yeah.
want people to have their parties before.
Yeah,
but
I don't wanna
not
do a party.
everybody have their party that Saturday before.
Because the pressure of dressing up is its own thing. That's a whole
Yeah.
other topic.
Because it's been a few years ago. My wife's birthday is on November 2nd. So we had a surprise birthday party for her, but we made it this big Halloween thing. So it's, your last chance to wear your slutty costume. And everybody loved it because you're kind of recovered a day or two. And then, they all had like a million kids that they would take out trick-or-treating and everything. So then they could kind of do something fun and adult again.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Like that was the official close.
It's true. There is. It is rare that I go to a party on Halloween, and there is something nice about Halloween night after the trick or treating dies down, and it's quiet. But you look down the street, and there's still that glow of decorations and stuff.
Yeah, it's
There's that-
atmosphere.
Because to me, it's kind of sad Halloween night because you know that
It's over
It's
for a
like
year.
eventually somebody's going to tell
because
me
you
to
know
take this
Black
shit
Friday
down.
is coming.
Yeah.
And record store day.
Well, no, shoot
it's
a
just
film because you can
Halloween
get
was
cameras.
always sort of like New Year's to me. It's always kind of not a letdown, but it's always sort of, there's a melancholy to it. Because
Yeah,
to me,
I
it's
think so.
all the buildup to
Yeah.
Halloween. You know,
Yeah.
I love the buildup, but it's always that,
Yeah.
And my Halloween costume was directly for you this year.
Just
as a Joe Dante fan.
Just filling you guys in. Mangler 2 is directed by Michael Hamilton Wright.
Yeah.
And Mangle 3 is directed by Eric Gardner.
The guy we know, yeah.
So maybe he wrote it. So who the hell?
There's like 9 producers on it. Michael Hamilton Wright also wrote this one. Wrote 2.
The time you took to look that up was longer than they took to plan these movies.
I wrote like 4 Mangler scripts while I was waiting for the page to load. So, yeah. Okay. Well, happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Shane, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And
keep it fun. Keep imaginative.
Elric won't ever mention it because this is his. Not his show.
Until he's in production because he knows the stigma and what happens.
Yeah.
I know I won't.
What are you going to say, Shane?
Black Sunshine. He's afraid to mention it on the show because Elric's the guy. It's like, if I don't ask that hot girl out, she can't reject me. So he won't mention the show or the script. Black Sunrise. Tell Elric you want to see this movie. Producers out there. Elric has a script.
Come on, Kane.
Tell me you want to see it.
Yeah, Kane.
Give us a movie.
You can't get interest in a script or a movie if you don't tell anybody about it.
I just don't want to take advantage of our listeners.
Can we plug
5 of them that are still left.
I will say it is a Deathwave film, and it comes out if you were a fan and you're giving your money to other Deathwave films.
Ride that Deathwave, baby. Ride it.
Forget Addams, forget Mortimer, whoever you give it directly to us. I want to be Desert Wave. We're making a film in the desert.
We are Desert Wave.
We only need $100,000.
We're Acid Noir Wave.
Yeah. It will be fun, though. Yeah. It is a different world.
You should be mentioning that all the time.
Okay.
all the POV listeners need to keep hitting him up because he gets
one of the listeners did design the poster. So
he has this thing called Kevin. I'm gonna because you never also put it on Twitter or anything. I
did put it on Twitter one time.
Once. This Elric, I swear.
Yeah,
I'm not a salesman.
You don't have any. I know you're obviously
not a salesman,
but you have people would kill to have your connections, and I get people come up. Somebody's
talking about me.
Yeah. I do know Mike. It's true.
I wish I did, but somebody came up to me last night. He's like, "Oh man, why isn't Elric making a movie?"
Yeah. Yeah. Well, movies aren't that easy to get made. I mean,
but you have to tell people that you have a script that you really like in order for them to.
I do, and I will, and I promise we will do it.
Look at Elric getting reprimanded by his guest.
No,
but it's good.
I mean, it's like, Elric, come on.
Okay, guys, I'm wrapping it now.
Yeah,
Happy Halloween, everybody. See you guys next week.
Line, stop smelling it.
Yeah, this is my quote. Stop smelling it, start selling it.